Well, we've got a Schnäppchen hunter. And then we have little Bobby B working at SRO Video, which was the very first video store inside a movie theater in Seattle, Washington. How cool was I? Obviously, not very. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, and your Pharaoh of Physical Media, Robert Meyer Burnett. And after a long, dark night of the soul that's lasted many, many weeks, Dieter Bastian and I are back with another episode of Let's Get Physical Media. And you know that Dieter Bastian is your favorite German, my favorite German, all the way from Saarbrücken, Deutschland. I know you've missed him. You've been crying in your cereal because you've missed him for so long. Let me once again represent the great Dieter Bastian. Dieter, how are you?
Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Dieter here. Here I am, rock you like Hurricane. And Rob, I'm excited because only in 3 days I see Dune.
Oh,
no,
rub it in.
Only 3
great,
days.
rub it in. Rub it
Okay.
in.
Wait. You don't see it tomorrow? Has your media access shield has been revoked or something like this?
Dude, you know what? I've been talking such shit on the internet. I mean, I get blocked by Paramount. Disney is not sending me my shill checks because Bob Iger's no longer around. And, being critical of Bob Chapek.
Said no more, no checks.
I used to work for that guy. Chapek and I go way back. I mean, I made a feature-length documentary for Tron. Chapek was like, yo, Burnett, nicely done. I get nothing from him now. Nothing from him now.
Unbelievable. I want to apologize for all BGS members who expecting a show last week. But I have to defend myself a little. This was the only option for me to see Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in English. And considering if I watched it in the German dub version, they only are dubbing the English parts. So you have, in that movie, different voices for the same actors because the Mandarin parts are left alone. And that is,
Wait, they're in Chinese? The Mandarin parts are in Chinese, but then they dub the English?
Correct. They only switch out the subtitles.
What kind of cockamamie German bullshit is that?
Yeah. And the only showing for the original version was last Sunday. It's always Sunday evening. So I apologize for not being there for you. But here I am, back again. But I'm not alone.
Wait, hang on a second. Are you rocking us like a hurricane?
I hope so.
Because you haven't said it yet.
Yes, I said it. Bill, did I say it?
Did you? All right. Well, wait. Don't interrupt. Don't talk about Bill.
Yeah.
We haven't introduced Bill yet.
Yeah, we will do now. Come on. You can.
Well, why don't you introduce him?
Waiting. Well, we have another guest tonight. He's with us for the second time, but he will show stuff this time, not like the first time.
Yeah, I roped him in for some show and tell.
Yeah. For a statement for physical media, and he will show stuff as well. So, Rob, introduce your friend.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have the honor of once again having the great Bill Hunt, the man who is the Wall Street Journal of physical media himself. He brings us over 20 years. His website, The Digital Bits, has brought us all up-to-date information about all things physical media. And here he is, Mr. Bill Hunt. He's now the author of what was once a single novel. Now it's becoming a series, the Space Guard series, which, by the way, all rights are currently available. And if you need them, talk to me. I get 10%. And just mention you saw this on Let's Get Physical Media. But Bill Hunt, welcome to Let's Get Physical Media. It is good to have you here, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's good to be here again. So would that make me the William Randolph Hearst of physical media?
You know what? If you want to be well, I have to say, I got to tell you something.
Or the Charles Foster Kane.
I gotta give a shout out. So obviously we had George Feltenstein, who you can't call him the William Randolph Hearst of physical media because he's such a nice guy.
That's right.
And it was great. It has been reported that we can say this now. George Feltenstein is going back to Warner Brothers where he belongs to make sure that their catalog and the rest of their movies are sorted out.
And
God knows.
For it.
I mean, they should hire him at just every studio, and he could just rotate around and make sure that we get things that aren't screwed up and in the highest bit rates possible and the best versions. but it's good to have him. But I have to say, as a result of having George Feltenstein on the show, I reconnected with somebody that before you, Bill, there was a man named Douglas Pratt. And Douglas Pratt published the Laserdisc newsletter. And now it's the Laserdisc DVD newsletter. And I first learned of him from my friend Craig Hyland, who worked at Videophile, which was a Laserdisc store on Broadway in Seattle. And I feel terrible because I never actually subscribed to his newsletter, but I bought it every month because they sold it at our Tower Records on Mercer Street.
Yeah.
But Douglas Pratt reached out to me, and he's still publishing the Laserdisc. Now it's a Laserdisc DVD newsletter, and I encourage everyone to find it. He's been writing about Laserdiscs for almost 40 years now.
Yeah,
and a long time. And his newsletter is still just as valuable and worth reading as it always was. His prose, his entertaining prose, has not changed. It's just gotten better. And so here's a big shout out to Douglas Pratt and to the Laserdisc/DVD newsletter that I got to reconnect with him as a result of George Feltenstein being on the show. So everyone, go look up Douglas Pratt. Go look up his DVD Laserdisc newsletter. Subscribe, support him. He deserves it. And he, again, his newsletter is chock-a-block full of prose. I mean, it is thick with prose, and you will learn lots of fun stuff. So thank you, Douglas Pratt, for reaching out. And hopefully everyone watching this show will also go subscribe, support Doug Pratt and the Laserdisc DVD Laserdisc newsletter. What's
interesting is that it's rare that you find the kind of knowledge, the kind of depth of knowledge in this industry that someone like that has. I mean, for example, one of the advantages I have with the digital bits is because I started with the DVD format doing the bits, but and I was writing for Widescreen Review before that, and those guys go all the way back to the beginning of Laserdisc, right?
Yeah.
I was for a few years, I was the inside DVD contributing editor to Widescreen Review. That kind of institutional knowledge that crosses multiple decades and multiple formats is really rare. Like, most guys who've been doing this as long as we have are gone now. They're just gone. And George Feltenstein too, even at the studios. He's one of the very few people at the studios who's survived all of these, 2-3 decades. And, he's got all of the institutional knowledge at Warner Brothers. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, he really does. And not only that, I mean, he's got a childlike sense of enthusiasm for the product.
Yes.
And he knows...
Yeah. He's a fan of cinema.
Oh, yeah. He's a huge fan of cinema. And, I think that's really what is missing throughout the entire entertainment industry is there's not even institutional knowledge of people that are working on certain legacy projects, Star Trek, that know what's going on. And it's incredibly frustrating. And not only is there not that institutional knowledge, it doesn't seem like there's any impetus to learn. Yeah. To learn because people are like, well, why do I need to bother? How can I monetize this? But I think knowledge is it's a reward in itself.
Well, and the thing of it is before the sort of corporate era in Hollywood, the people who worked at the studios were passionate about this stuff. They were fans of this material. They loved it as much as anyone.
Right. That's why they got into it in the first place.
Right. That's exactly right. And now, like in the sort of corporate era, most of the people who work at the studios, they're marketing degree people, they're business degree people, and they're all very nice people, but they didn't get into it because of a passion for film. They started somewhere else and ended up in the movie industry, and so you just don't have that same love of the art. They love the business aspect of the cinema industry, but they don't love the cinema aspect of it. They don't love the film and the artistic thing. Now, some of them come to love it over time, but there is a difference. People who really know film and people are really passionate about film, people like George Feltenstein, are rare. And we should do everything we can to support them.
Yes, and also I would say the same is true of someone like Doug Pratt, who's been writing about home video for a very, very long time. There's really no one else out there like him, and I was delighted to find out that he's still publishing the newsletter, and the news he has not missed a step.
That's amazing.
Great stuff.
That's amazing. And what's even more amazing about it is because developments in the industry over the past 20 years have been such that, it is very easy to get discouraged about the industry.
Bruh.
The state of the industry, the state of the home video industry in particular, has been very, very discouraging. And we'll be talking about that a little bit today, about the state of the industry, because we're in a very strange moment.
Yes, and it is a very strange moment, very odd. Now, Dieter, since we've had all this time, have you gone back into the live chat and looked at things that you have to address?
Of course, 2 weeks. I will go through it a little bit more quickly. So, Pod Racing Palpatine, previously on Let's Get Physical Media, asked, why is Rob not wearing the disco shirt? Is it still alive, Rob? just asking, okay?
Okay, here's my response to that. Hang on, wait. Wait, Bills, come say that one more time. Come back. You expect what now?
I'm expecting there to be a button somewhere in the Robservatory where you can push a button and disco ball just drops down out of the into the picture.
Well, I would say I do have representation in the Robservatory. It's a piece of wood someone got me, but okay. Yeah, can't get past those costumes. I'll tell you that. Okay, please, Dieter, continue.
Yeah. Bill Barclay said, just finished a protege with Maggie Q. It certainly wasn't terrible, and I already have pre-ordered the 4K here in Germany. It's
of course you have.
4K, but it's coming out on 4K in the US as well, and I probably think it's from Lionsgate, so you could reach out to Cliff, I believe, to get it. And it's coming out, I believe, as a steelbook, I believe, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, I would reach out to Cliff's wife. Yeah.
Correct.
She got me Dirty Dancing, 4K steelbook. Yes, she did.
Which looked awesome.
It is awesome.
Right?
Yeah, I gotta love it.
Gary Benjo Sandwich Worthington said, Dieter for new hotel manager in season 2. He was talking about the White Lotus, and I would totally accept that job. Okay? As hotel manager. Bill Barclay asks Rob, by the way, I've not seen Gilbert for the longest time. Is he well?
Gilbert is well. He's going to get groomed this week. Gilbert and Tallulah are well, and they will soon be coming back into the Robservatory. They've been absent from the show for quite some time. They will both be back.
There was no Ruckus for a long time.
I know. Ruckus will return.
Has Dieter been sleeping with Rob's Emmanuel? Said.
Look at that. Look, can you just hold that up again? Let's just gaze upon that Emmanuel box set, because wow. And of course Emmanuel 2 being the best of the spank material there, just saying, in case you wanted to know.
I leave that question, Tim Hans, open, but Rob, I got a special edition, and that package seems to be huge enough to put the Emmanuel box in it.
Dude, when's the Coke Dunes coming out, man? What's all we want to know? What's going on, bruh?
Mid-October at the moment.
Okay.
Mid-October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it was delayed so they can have that documentary.
Because it would be,
I believe it would be out already. It was scheduled, I believe, for August.
Yeah. Arrow put theirs out, but wait, don't show it yet, Bill. Come on now. Don't you jump the gun. Hold on a second. All right. Look at that. We have worm sign, apparently. The likes of which God himself has never seen.
What is it with you guys and that Dune from 484? Unbelievable. Okay. Tim Hans again, since you asked for it, Rob. Willow Yang and the Fungalicious Severin let the sparks and kitchen sink fly because he wanted an MMA match between the two. And I did find out, Rob, some heights, considering the heights. And Willow Yang is actually the same size, 4'11". But not only that, I found out another size in the live chat. Stubble McShave is 6'6".
What?
Stubble McShave. Yeah, Stubble is 6'6".
So he'll be the ref. I mean,
Definitely.
If you put Zephyr Chan and Willow Yang on each other's shoulders, they just barely tower over Stubble McShave.
unbelievable. The Vikings, from up north.
Do you think that we could set up a pay-per-view MMA fight between Willow and Zephyr?
If they're down for it.
I don't want them to fight. They're not fighters. They're lovers. I can tell.
Correct. So, Emmanuel, and Stubble came up with a nickname for me, the Horderific Dieter Bastian.
The Horderific Dieter Bastian. Now, do you accept that as a moniker? Can we make a piece of artwork?
Because it's true. It's true.
All right, folks. Okay. The gauntlet has been thrown. We need a piece of artwork of the Horderific Dieter Bastian. It could happen. Okay, sir. As long as you approve.
Yeah, totally. Horderific is actually pretty on point. Stop it. Really on point. Bill Barkley asks you, Rob, if you have watched the Luke Skywalker episode of Disney Gallery Mandalorian.
I did, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was really inspiring, and it was very, very cool. I'm glad that they did it. I'm glad that they did that. I thought it was really cool. Very cool, actually. Hang on, Bill. Wait. Let me put you in.
Sure.
What is cool about that episode?
What's cool about that episode is the way, like, Favreau and company kind of addressed the way that particular character and, the idea that Star Wars is supposed to give you a certain kind of feeling, right? And even Favreau, who's an industry veteran and has been around the block many times, many great productions, the moment R2-D2 rolled onto the set, got emotional, right? He had that moment where he was 10 years old again, and there's his hero, and there's R2-D2, and it's like, that's something about Star Wars that is hard to put into words, but it for a whole generation of fans, it taps into those childhood emotions, and that's how Star Wars should make you feel. And it was cool to see them address that in that special.
Unlike, say, in The Force Awakens, when R2-D2 has a tarp thrown over him for the duration of the movie, the hero of the previous 6 films has a tarp so J.J. Abrams can make some money off BB-8.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
One thing I will say is, in the last few years, seeing what they're doing on Disney Plus with Mandalorian and stuff, I'm pretty confident in the future of that franchise now. They seem to be building to a whole new saga with those shows, and I'm confident it's in good hands.
I just wish Hot Toys would lay off the toys for a minute so I can catch up, because my God, how many Mandalorian armors do I need? And the answer is all of them.
I feel the same thing about 1612 Eagles.
Dude, did you? Me too. I mean, is the Dragon's Domain set? Has it dropped yet? Has it arrived?
It's dropped. So hang on, I'm leading it. If you ordered from FAB Gear USA, you're getting yours now.
Oh,
the shipping to the UK takes longer, and then they've got to ship it back. So I haven't got that. But here's my Hawk from the War Games set.
I know. I've got mine, man. Mine are my Eagle shelf is adorned with hawks.
Yeah. I've got like 12 Eagles right behind the camera here that are just all lined up like a Moonbase Alpha hangar.
Me too.
Can't resist. It's such a cool spacecraft design.
Love it. So Dieter, continue, please.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Can we wait before that? Let's have a Dieter metal break, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. There's Dieter Bastian with his Kiss shirt, rocking out. There you go. Just go ahead now.
Correct. I showed Mr. Big SACD, and Brian Hepburn said, and some people thought I would break out into Mr. Big songs, and Brian Hepburn answered, almost nobody knows those songs, Dieter, anyway. Brian, thin ice, young man, thin ice, and the loss is on you. The loss is on you, okay? So, Joe K said, come on, Rob, get your shit figured out and send Dieter his stuff, okay?
I will. I will. I owe people African Kung Fu Nazis. I got copies of that. The media book sitting here that I haven't sent out. The greatest movie, of course, ever made. Our mascot movie is African Kung Fu Nazis.
And Stubble McShave answered to Dennis Mason, which is correct considering the horrific. I'm not sure Dieter watch every movie he buys. No, Stubble, because we're getting way more content that I could watch.
Well, first of all, I think I'd like to chime in. I think, Bill, I need you to chime in. Part of being a physical media fan is buying movies that you just haven't watched yet. There's always a perpetual stack of discs somewhere that you can delve into and watch that you haven't seen. But you own them, and as I once wrote in a screenplay, sometimes it's just enough to know that they're there.
Yeah,
if the
and the
if the
thing
internet falls away for 1 or 2 months, we still would be good
That's right.
with all the stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, and the thing of it is when your favorite movies come out and new versions of your favorite movies come out with a new remastered image and maybe some new extras, it's like that's a siren call that's awfully hard to refuse, right? You got to get the latest, best presentation of that film. It's hard. It's impossible, but it's a catch-22 because for the last 25 years I've been the editor of the Digital Bits, and if I started right now and kept watching movies for the rest of my life, I couldn't watch all of the movies that are in my library.
No.
So it's
and to give an example, Rob, you and I both have nice American Werewolf sets in London. Did I need a new one? No. But Turbine put out new ones with new covers. And I
In
couldn't
4K,
resist,
though,
Rob.
bro.
I couldn't resist.
Oh, what?
I couldn't resist to buy it again, Rob.
Oh, look at that cover, dude.
And the inside is made like the Daily Mirror, London Mirror.
My goodness.
And behind it, the 4K, we have the slaughtered lamb.
Oh, man.
And it's made like a
Coke
like
is
a
doing some nice
newspaper.
work.
Yeah,
And
that's Turbine, though, right?
Is that Turbine?
Yeah, it's Turbine.
Turbine.
Yeah, some of these indie distributors are doing beautiful work.
Yep.
We have the nice promotion for the porn theater, And I couldn't say no, Rob. Even if I really didn't need it, we have our special editions. But look at that cover.
What do you mean if we really didn't need it? Of course we need it. The whole premise of this show is that we need it. Give it to me.
That's a chunky buying stuff that you actually already have. Okay. And Turbine did put out, I believe, 7 new covers.
Oh, look at that. Oh, you got the Battlestar Galactica set with Caprica.
Speaking of things that we already have that we have to have again. Random Space Media.
Is there anything new in it?
Yeah, where did that come? Is that Australian?
So Random Space Media released this in Australia, which means it's all region, so it's compatible with U.S. players.
ABC.
Here's the cool thing: this is the only place that you can get Caprica, all region.
Oh, okay.
Caprica, and it also because Caprica was released on Blu-ray, I think in France and Germany, but I think it had those discs were region locked, and they also had all the SD features. Had kind of a PAL speed up. I think even the audio on some had PAL speed up. Well, this is original NTSC, all region Caprica in here, in addition to every other incarnation of Battlestar Galactica.
Well, Bill, it wouldn't be NTSC because it's HD, is it not?
Well, yes, but the SD features.
Oh,
the
right.
SD features are all NTSC, so it's compatible with US players because it's not region. None of these are region locked, so you can import this all from all over the world. So the only thing that's not in here, this has got the original '79 movie. The original Battlestar series, Galactica 1980, the Ron Moore series, all of the Ron Moore spin-off films, and Caprica.
What?
And so the only thing that's not in here are the face of the enemy webisodes from Battlestar Galactica from season 4. Those were never released in the US on Blu-ray or anything. You can get those. They're not in here, unfortunately. But everything is in here but those, and you can get those on the season 4 Battlestar release from Japan, which is also region A, and those are standard definition NTSC. So if you want everything Battlestar goodness related, buy this one, Random Space Media, and buy the Japanese season 4 set.
God bless the Japanese.
Speaking of having to have every version of everything.
Speaking of the Japanese, can we all talk about the upcoming Space Battleship Yamato 2205 series? Oh my God.
So, Solo Boxer asked, is that in 4K? He asked about the Twister media book from Turbine. No, like Daylight and Dragonheart, Turbine didn't get the rights from Universal to do a 4K.
But they did new Atmos mixes.
They did new Atmos mixes and Auro. So you have one disc for the Auro mix, which is DTS, and the other mix is the Dolby Atmos mix on the other disc. And they use, let's say, a master that is not touched upon. It's an older master, but it's left alone. So it's probably as good as you probably can get it right now. It's not to say there will be better version at some point in the future. So considering, let me just look. Our friend Dave Parker asked, "Are you saying that he's not going to see the movie at the Metropole?" And he talks about the theater of demons, but I don't know the content of the question anymore. Probably Dune. And Joe K said, "I'll fly Dieter to London to see it." Nice to know, Joe. But in 3 days, I will see Dune. So I'm good. I'm fine. Okay. So, and Dave Parker said, "It's just Dune. I mean, who wants to travel all that way to be bored? Let's hope, Dave, it will be better than the 84 one." Okay. So that I don't want to.
What's with the German hate on 84 Dune? What's with you people?
It's not hate, but I don't know why you're so big for that German. Yes, I order it for you, but I don't.
I will be honest. It's hard for me to get through that movie.
Okay. I know.
I mean, I have a love for it. I certainly do. But it is a hard movie to get through.
Yeah.
Everybody, here, I'll sit here and look off pensively in the distance, and one of you guys do my voiceover.
Okay. For Dune, is that the scene from Dune? So, okay, that was the live chat, Rob. The live chat.
Well, okay, that was a live chat. I think that we should jump right into the show and tell segment. Now, I want to start, just because I can, I want to start with something that isn't a movie, but it is this.
No.
The new Iron Maiden album in a special edition box set. Let me see how.
I haven't seen that cover, Rob.
Dude, come on, man. Can I just talk about how great? First of all, Dieter, have you heard the new Iron Maiden album?
Rob, I haven't opened my special edition yet. You know.
Oh, well.
What's in the box?
This is packaged for 2 weeks.
What's in the box?
Hey man, I gotta go full frame on this. The artwork. I mean, bruh, come on. Look at that. Look at Eddie as a samurai. I mean, this shit is dope as fuck. And this has a whole booklet. You know, it's got all the lyrics to all the songs. I mean, these 13-minute epic prog rock versions of Maiden. There's all kinds of... I mean, dude, look at this artwork, bro. Come on. It's awesome. 2 CDs. Look at the artwork on the CDs. Yeah, well, I got to say that this was awesome. And speaking of vinyl, I'm just going to show a couple more things because Bill brought this up earlier before I turn it over to you guys. So... the lovely Emma Bannon from the UK acquired for me, as I'm looking for where it went, acquired for me these. These are the vinyl versions, 2-disc sets of the Space 1999 soundtracks on vinyl. Year 1 and Derek Wadsworth's Year 2. Heavy gauge vinyl. Actually, this is coming off. But yes, and they do come with a CD version. But these are dope. Really well done. It's interesting because the Space 1999 soundtrack was one of the very first television soundtracks I ever owned, even before you could get original recordings of the Star Trek TV scores. Space 1999 had come out as an album, and I listened to it incessantly. So to have these on vinyl, thanks to the lovely Emma Bannon. I mean, they are awesome, and it did come with the CD. Look at that.
It's funny you mentioned that because Network in the UK just had like a 50% off sale a few weeks ago, and I had to get like. I had
made some schnäppchen.
I had check discs of season 2, but I didn't have like actual like nice packaging, so I took advantage and I got that. And by the way, while we're talking Space 1999, have you heard that Jerry Anderson in the Jerry Anderson Company in the UK is doing a brand new Space 1999 technical manual? that goes on an updated technical manual.
You mean
that
like
goes
I
on
have
sale.
my original, my Moonbase
Yeah.
Alpha technical notebook from the 70s.
Yeah. Well, there's a new updated version that is being that goes on for pre-order tomorrow on the Jerry Anderson shop.
Oh, I think Emma's hooking
So
me up
the
with
old
that
tech
too.
specs aren't good anymore.
Wow. Incredible. Okay, boys, what do you guys have?
Okay, who starts?
You.
Well, I tell you what, I've got. I mean, obviously,
Okay, Bill.
I'll circle back to Dune, but I've got the new
Yeah.
Star Trek set.
Oh, me too. Me too.
The elusive.
Yeah,
the
I
elusive,
didn't. They didn't
like,
send me
not
mine. I was probably
outside of the
blocked.
stores. Yeah. So the problem that's happening right now with there you go. Look at that. Excellent. Dieter's got it. So the problem that the industry is having is that there is not enough replication capacity to meet demand, right? So they're making these as fast as they can, and then they're just having it, but it's not nearly enough to cover the demand on street date. So then people are having to wait like days and weeks as they try to frantically replicate more because they're just not enough. They're not enough replication plants to make all the discs that studios are trying to release. And it's a problem. So not only for this one, which is going to be hard to find, but Warner Brothers' forthcoming Middle Earth collection, I bet is going to be in pretty high demand, and it's going to be pretty hard to find on street date. And then Sony Pictures Home Entertainment just delayed 3 of their big marquee releases for the fourth quarter. The Columbia Classics Volume 2 collection is now, they've all been delayed by a week. It's now coming out on October 12th. The Underworld collection is coming out on October 26th now. Yeah. And then the Guns of Navarone 4K set is coming out on November 12th. And those are all like at least a week delay from the original street dates. It's because they just can't manufacture enough. These plants there's a plant in Mexico, a couple others, they just can't make enough to meet the demand for all the pre-orders.
Yeah, and can I just say, well, go ahead. For those of you who don't, I just want to say everybody should go to thedigitalbits.com. If you don't, you should. And read Bill's exhaustive review of the 4-film Star Trek collection.
Yeah, I have to say, so the new remasters look pretty great. They're not perfect, right? They're not. I mean, given the nature of the films, they're not going to be perfect. There are the theatrical version of Star Trek: The Motion Picture has a couple little digital tweaks, not like glaringly obvious, but there are a couple little digital sort of fixes that they did. But on the whole, these 4K masters are really, really beautiful. And there's a little bit of grain management and stuff, but I mean, and I think the audio is the original, is the previous mixes from the Blu-rays, the THX, or the
ETS.
Yeah, I think it's True HD. I think is what it is.
True
Dolby
HD,
True
yeah,
HD,
correct.
I think is what it is. But these films have never looked better. The improvement over the previous Blu-ray releases, which were scrubbed with digital noise reduction, so all the grain and fine detail was gone. This is so much better than that was. And the worst thing about this set, honestly, is the packaging.
Yeah.
Right. So
totally
if you've got this the cardboard.
It's Paramount. It's nothing that stands out.
Right. So you've got, you've got this weird kind of like newly done kind of poster art. These are the 4Ks. These are the Blu-rays. It's
what I hate most, that the disc from Paramount look like pirated copies.
Yeah, they kind of do, right? And like the art is a little wonky. Like for example, there's in the background there's the Enterprise kind of in schematic format, right? But if you look at the running number, the alignment of the running number suggests that it's not the Enterprise, it's the Enterprise A. It's stuff like that this is like, these are like pre-production artwork, for the Enterprise. It's just, it's kind of wonky. And I know that a lot of people are complaining about it. I can say that here's what I've done. I've had these for years. So somebody did like Bob Peak versions of the Blu-ray covers years ago. So what I'm doing is I'm taking these and I'm putting them in new 4K cases. So there's the Wrath of Khan in a 4K case, and it's a 2-disc case, so it'll hold both the discs. And if you look really closely, a couple of years ago, I had these signed by Nick Meyer.
Wow.
At a screening. So it's like, think Photoshop and a laser printer, and you can, kind of create your own. But even so, the good news is all of these films are finally coming. This has got the first 4 films, the motion picture theatrical edition, both versions of Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, and Star Trek 4. And then what's going to happen is next year or later, probably early next year, there'll be another box set. There may be one or two more box sets of the rest of the films, because so motion pictures obviously the first one, and then the next three films form a coherent story, right? Kind of a story trilogy.
Little trilogy.
Right. And then I think what they can do is, based on this, what they can do is they can do one of the Final Frontier, the Undiscovered Country, and Generations, which basically finishes the story of the original crew. And then they can do another box set that's got the last three Next Generation films, which would finish their story. And then the long-awaited Star Trek: The Motion Picture Director's Edition is coming next year, probably roughly this time next year, fully remastered for 4K by all of the original people who worked on it in 2001 for DVD. And it'll be a Paramount Plus digital exclusive at first, but then after an exclusive window on Paramount Plus, it'll come out on Blu-ray and 4K as well. So probably by this time, or by the holidays next year, all of the classic Star Trek films will have been remastered for 4K and re-released on remastered Blu-ray, which is
awesome.
Man, I didn't think that was ever going to happen.
I didn't either. And you know what, Bill? I would be happy to go talk about that on the official Star Trek on Paramount Plus Twitter feed, but they've blocked me.
They've blocked you.
They pre-blocked me. I didn't even follow them, and I was pre-blocked. I guess I made some kind of a list. I should start wearing a yellow Star Trek Delta shield. Like Uden, but I'm a bad Star Trek fan.
So now, did they block you during the Star Trek Day live stream, or did they block you before that in anticipation?
I think they did it before. I don't know, but I'm of two minds of this. One, I love that I made some list somewhere that somebody says I'm a toxic Star Trek fan, so they're not going to. But what's interesting is I'm really only toxic about a certain era of Star Trek. That is the era that Star Trek was taken hostage back in 2007. And then starting in 2009, we realized just how bad it was. I mean, I am not going to have Stockholm Syndrome like so many fans out there. I will be railing against the co-option of my favorite franchise by lesser intellects. I feel like Pac-Leds are making Star Trek now, if you're a Next Generation fan.
My problem is, look, then there are a lot of people out there that are loving what Star Trek is doing right now. And I'm like, more power to them. I think that's great. I'm glad that people have found something that they love, and that, if it's making you happy, that's great. For me, though, like, Star Trek is the closest thing we got to actual science fiction on television.
Yeah.
And new Star Trek is just like this weird roller coaster space fantasy. Right?
No, there is no science fiction at all in modern Star Trek. None.
And what science fiction there is very, very loosely played, and a lot of it retcons what we saw before. It retcons characters we saw before. I would have no problem with what they're doing if they would go into a new era and with all new crew and stop trying to redo or revamp what came before. Just go do a whole new thing. But a perfect example of like something that irritated me is what is it, Prodigy, the trailer for Prodigy. You've got a character going, "Where's the pew pew button?" Right? And it's like that very idea of pew pew. That's kind of what this whole thing is. It's all like, it's like this weird Flash Gordon, Guardians of the Galaxy, glossy kind of space fantasy. It's
and making linguistic references to today. Right, the one thing,
that's exactly right, very dated, which in a few years will be very dated. Now, the one thing I love about what they're doing is I love the inclusiveness. I love the inclusiveness and the representation. And that was always a part of Star Trek. And I love that they're taking that to the logical next step. But, oh, my God, the storytelling is brain dead. And, like, Picard, the graphic violence in some of those episodes, it's like, oh, man, it's just not what I want from Star Trek.
And not only that,
I want to live in.
The Picard Season 2 trailer is a pastiche. You can point and go, oh, it's all of these episodes of Star Trek combined into one thing. It's All Good Things. It's First Contact. It's,
It's Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
There's not one. I mean, all the way back to we have a car gag. Can you drive a car? Like, oh, hey, they did that in 1967 in A Piece of the Action.
Piece of the Action, right.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, and the whole thing about, like, even in Picard Season 1, Picard becoming an android. Well, what are little girls made of? In the first season, they talked about why that's so monstrous.
Yeah.
Why human beings.
And then the trailer, and I have to say, like, the one that I kind of am most interested in is Strange New Worlds, right? With Chris Pike and the Enterprise. But then when they revealed the characters, okay, so why is there a descendant of Khan, Nooney, and Singh on the Enterprise before they ever? That makes no sense.
Uh,
Why? And here's the thing. Here's the other thing. So it's good. You've got young Spock on the ship, and now they've got to have young Nurse Chapel and young Uhura. And I guarantee you, the only reason they're doing that is so they can do a love triangle. They can do a really ridiculous story plot where the three of them have a weird kind of love triangle, and it's like that's not what Star Trek is.
No,
That's
and
not what
and
Star
also, so how old is Uhura? Like,
Yeah, I
how
don't
old
know.
is she? I mean, she's a cadet. First of all, here's an opportunity to create new characters.
Right.
Where's Dr. Boyce? You know, I mean, it's.
Well, I love that so they've got Mbenga. Is that
Yeah, Dr. Mbenga. Yeah.
Like I love like some of that. Okay, that's kind of that's cool. I can totally do that. But it's like I just wish we could not have younger versions of our original series characters. Or I mean, let's go to a new thing and create all new characters and because what they're doing is they're kind of retconning these characters like Spock can't be Spock now without his relationship to his half sister or stepsister Burnham or whatever. It's kind of like what they did in Star Trek V with Cybok, right? I mean, I don't know. There's so much great science fiction television coming out now with Foundation and The Expanse and the Dune's coming in. I mean, that stuff is thrilling, and I can't wait. I can't wait to dig into that. What they're doing with Star Trek is just, I mean, more power to them.
It's creatively bankrupt, Bill. It's creatively bankrupt to the point where I think as a creator, if you were somebody that was, why wouldn't you want to create characters that are your own?
Yeah.
You know, why are you going back and using legacy characters, which inherently is going to diminish these characters, in especially because Star Trek is unique in that, especially the characters in the original series, they existed from 66 all the way through the movie series, through the 60s, through the 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s. And you had these actors playing these characters, which is unique in pop culture, for a very long time. And not only were they playing characters, I mean, Nichelle Nichols worked for NASA, you know, and I think by recasting and putting, okay, we're having someone else playing Uhura, well, Uhura's not yours. It's not yours to play with. You know, you want to do a Strange New World series. Why is Star Trek so mired in this? Let's go have another prequel series in an era that all you're doing is fucking up the original legacy of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I get it.
I have to say, like 2008, that original Star Trek movie, the one thing
2009.
The one thing I kind of like that they were trying to do is, okay, this is like everything you're seeing now is a new universe, right? So they basically split, like, so that original one continues to exist the way it did, and here's a new one. Go off in that one and do anything you want, and that would kind of work. But it's like what they've done is they've taken that idea, but now they've brought it back and they're retconning stuff. So they've taken the look and the loose storytelling and they're so now they're back in the prime timeline, but they're retconning everything, and it's like it just doesn't.
Well, when they show you an Enterprise, we saw the Starship Enterprise. Deep Space Nine, you know, we saw it in Troubles and Tribulations. We saw the Defiant, which is a Constitution class ship, in a Mirror Darkly in 2005. So the look of that of the heavy cruiser Constitution class ships has been in Star Trek for 40 years, and Discovery comes along and says, "Nope, we're doing a visual reboot," and they're showing us a version of a Constitution class, the Enterprise, that isn't the Enterprise.
Right.
So,
and here's my problem with that. I don't have a problem with the reboot, but do a reboot then. Just say, okay, don't try to have it both ways. If you're going to reboot, then reboot. I'm totally good with that. Reboot and go off and do a new thing. But the idea that they're trying to do a reboot, but they're also saying, oh no, this is prime timeline, the way you always remember. It's like that to me is what's just a mess. It makes it a mess, and it's. I really try. I tried hard to keep an open mind about it. I watched 2 seasons of Discovery, and I watched the first season of Picard, and it was just, my brain just hurt by the end of that. I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm afraid Star Trek has gone where I can't go, and that makes me feel sad because I love the representation of it. Again, like I love some of that stuff that they're doing, but it's like, oh, the storytelling is just so it pales in comparison to what they should be doing.
Yeah, Yes.
We've just gone off for like a,
I know we're on a tangent. We got to get back to. This show is all about joy, Bill. It's all about
Absolutely. I
sharing
understand.
the joy.
I understand.
Dieter,
Yeah.
you're the trash Kaiser.
Okay.
Come on,
should
show
I,
us
uh,
what's
show
the
some trash
trashiest.
titles?
What's the trashiest stuff you've bought in the last couple weeks?
Let me look. There's a lot of Cat in the Bags that I haven't watched, so let me show some of this stuff. The first one, let me just check that I don't say anything wrong. This Luis Mandylor. It's called Battletron.
Ooh.
What?
Haven't seen it.
Okay, why would you buy that? Come on. What made you buy it? Why'd you look at that and go, oh, I got to have that?
Come on, Rob. It looks like a cool cyborg is in it, And Luis Mandylor, I like Luis and Costas, his brother. Okay, Battletron. Could be good, Rob. Could be good. Okay. The next one, I heard good things about it. I haven't seen it. It's, I believe, an Australian movie. Two Heads Creek, is it called? And it's. I hope it's good. But I heard good things. Two Heads Creek.
Very
Little
interesting.
horror. It's. Let me just see. From the producers of Better Watch Out and Bloody Hell. Okay?
Oh.
Black humor horror. So Two Heads Creek. Hopefully it's good. The next thing, Fight for Your Soul, Hellcat. A little bit. It seems a little bit like a Mortal Kombat in Hell kind of movie.
Oh, that's a must buy for me,
There
right
you
there.
go.
Oh, wait till I see it, Rob. It's really a must buy. Okay?
I'm kidding.
The next one, a Western with Lance Henriksen, Eminence Hill.
Ooh.
So
Interesting.
perhaps
Interesting.
Western are not that expensive to make. Perhaps could be good. It's at least it comes with a rating of 18, so probably at least
Sex
a
and violence.
Bloody Western. Sex and violence, correct?
Hopefully not with
Bloody Western.
Lance Henriksen, but you never know.
And let me just do two more. Or let's delve into not a trash movie. I already own this movie, but I did find out something. I bought Hard Target, the French version, and I found out it has a hidden feature. It has the work print on it.
No.
Whoa.
Yes.
No.
But of course, in abysmal quality. But
Yeah.
it has the work print on it of 116 minutes. Is on this disc.
Oh, that's a must buy because it's a way different movie. As a John Woo fan, oh my God, how do they?
That's very cool.
Okay, I didn't know
I
that.
read it in my forum and I bought it and I checked it. It's correct. It has the work print on it. But like I said, Rob, the quality is abysmal.
And that's a French. That's a French release.
That's a French release. Correct. Hard Target in French.
I
It
gotta
has
get that.
a special feature from Christophe Gans, but it's all in French, of course. And when that special plays, you hit the menu button and get to a separate special features segment, and there you can show the work print 100.
Wow,
and it's
I wonder-
official. It's an official Universal release. This is not a bootleg or something. Comes
Wow.
from Universal.
Wow.
Okay, this has the work print on it of Hard Target. So this was my first little haul. I have more stuff to show.
All right, Bill.
To you guys.
Come on, Bill. Show us
All
what
right,
you
so
got, buddy.
So I want to give a shout out to the folks at Vinegar Syndrome, who've been doing some great stuff with.
Dude.
Totally.
Wait, hang on.
Here is Stephanie Rothman's 1973 cult classic.
Wait,
Terminal
wait,
Island.
Wait, got it too.
Yeah, look
And
at that. He just got-
don't forget you can reverse the cover, Bill. Don't forget.
Yeah,
you can reverse
absolutely. I got to give them a shout, and also Vinegar Syndrome and Dust. So Vinegar Syndrome is working with Dust to release some great 4K titles as well. This is Tom Lowe's Awaken. So it's like it's kind of like a visual sort of a tone poem, right? Shot in 4K all around the world. Tom Lowe is the guy who did Timescapes and Visitors.
Yeah.
And Black Ice, right? Produced by Terrence Malick. The image quality is stunning. It's all kinds of amazing time-lapse photography.
Okay,
I stumbled across this disc in Germany, but with a different cover.
Oh, very, very interesting.
I have to give since you're waxing rhapsodic about Vinegar Syndrome.
Sorry.
I was a fan of Vinegar Syndrome, but I fell madly in love with them when they put out Liquid Sky on Blu-ray. Yeah. I never thought I would ever see that. They put out Liquid Sky, and then a movie that Elizabeth and I bonded over, the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the enchantress of entertainment. I showed her a movie I'd always wanted to see called Body Melt, which came out on DVD from Vanguard, which was clearly a rip from VHS. It was fucking terrible. And Elizabeth's like, why are you, it was early in our relationship, she's like, why are you showing me this trash? Like, why are you subjecting this to me? And I'm like, I said to her, I go, baby, I haven't seen this movie yet, but Vinegar Syndrome put out a beautiful Blu-ray special edition of Body Melt. And then they put out a beautiful box set of Beastmaster. I mean, Vinegar Syndrome
and just recently, Vinegar Syndrome and Dust released Prospect, the great little 2018 sci-fi film.
But I already have mine from Germany.
That bill is on you, Bill, that I bought that again. Yes, this is on you.
Because Vinegar Syndrome kicks the... So let's hear... I wonder, we should get the people... Hey, Vinegar Syndrome, if you're... Not that I think that every home video executive watches this show, but if you are...
I'll pass the word on to those guys.
Yeah, I would love to have somebody from Vinegar Syndrome come on and talk about, because they're crushing it. And by the way, let's face it, they're let's call it spicy adult material is always good too.
Right.
Well
Here's
done.
A cool one from the Film Detective, Flight to Mars.
So good.
Yeah.
Courtney Joyner, I talked to him a little bit about this. I'm a huge fan of 50s sci-fi. And by the way, do you know what our favorite label down in Australia is going to put out? They're putting out, not Via Vision, but Imprint. I don't know if I can say this. I hope I'm not betraying any trusts. They're putting out George Pal's Conquest of Space.
Oh,
and I love Conquest of Space.
So
Imprint, they put out When Worlds Collide.
Yeah,
and they put out War of the Worlds. They predated. So I'm hoping they release a George Pal box set. I would buy that just to get...
They could. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Criterion didn't pick that up as well. The interesting thing is, the restoration on this was done by Paramount. So this is a Paramount restoration.
Have you looked at that? Have you watched it yet?
No.
That transfer is spectacular. I mean, that movie is not great.
No,
it's hilarious, but it looks.
But it's a classic of sci-fi, right?
Oh no, it's 50 sci-fi. It's pinnacle. Yeah. It's 50 sci-fi, but that transfer is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And shout out to Courtney Joyner, who worked on that. A friend of mine. He's an author, a filmmaker, and talked to him about that release. He was very excited about it, and congratulations to the Film Detective guys for putting out. That's a must own.
And here's something great for classic film.
Where the hell did that come from?
This is from Classic Flicks, the Classic Flicks restorations.
Wow.
And this is volume 2. They've put out volume 1 already. So this has got everything from 1930 and 1931. They're putting out multiple volumes. In fact, volume 3 has already been announced for November or December, I believe. And these are uncut, remastered, restored, and if you've only seen these on TV when you were a kid, these restorations are stunning. And now they're not going to look like brand new films, but you have certainly never seen these like they're in HD and they're as restored as they can restore them, and it's pretty impressive to see these. They've really done a nice job with them.
I mean, I grew up with those, and those are the early, the very early episodes.
Yeah, absolutely, the real early, the R Gang with Jackie Cooper and Marianne Jackson. And they're the really, really early ones. And
where can people get those, Bill?
What's that?
Where can people get those?
This is Classic Flicks. Classic Flicks is doing these, and you can pre-order these on Amazon, and they're beautiful. Volume 1's already out, and I reviewed Volume 1 on the bits. This is the new volume, and Volume 2 and Volume 3 is on the way, already announced, and there'll be several more volumes beyond that. I think there's 60 of them all together that they're gonna put them all out, beautifully restored.
Wow.
Let's see, what else do I have? I've got Kino Lorber Studio Classics.
Oh, great.
Oh, Dead Men Don't.
Oh. Yeah.
Kino Lorber, by the way, crushing it.
Really crushing it. And,
by the way, for those of you who don't know, Kino Lorber is releasing To Live and Die in L.A. in 4K.
Yeah. And John Waters' Crybaby, and they're releasing Mystery Men from Universal.
And Silence of the Lambs.
Right, Silence of the Lambs. They've announced a bunch of really great 4K titles, and from the MGM library. and they're doing
Only-
a great. They're just
Only
doing
one thing
amazing
to
work.
say about Dead Men Don't Map. What was the title again? Only one thing
Men
to
Don't
say.
Wear Plastic.
Reine Frau.
Let's see something else I've got here. The Looper
Great.
from the UK.
Wow.
And in 4K, and this looks great. Now I think this Sony is going to release this in the US too eventually, but I think this is one of those things that like Sony's also working on like Drive and a few other titles, but I think this is one of those titles here in the US that is fallen back, has been delayed because of this replication problem that they're
Right.
having. Right? Sony.
That
in
was the
US
last movie
Sony's
that
got
Bruce
this
Willis
really big
cared about being in.
Right, right, exactly. And it's a great little sci-fi. Ryan Johnson,
Yeah.
great little sci-fi film. It's I having rewatched this recently and reviewed it. I'd forgotten how great this film was.
It's
It is
great.
a really nifty little film. So that's great. So that's
And-
in the UK, and obviously you can import that. Let's see what else here. This is a recent release, and I'm sure you guys have probably talked about it already.
Oh yeah, it's the
Yeah.
greatest.
Almost Famous. This is one of my favorite 4K releases of the year so far.
Oh,
This has got like the beautiful original theatrical cut, and it's got the director's the untitled bootleg.
Untitled or
director's
Go
cut.
Home. One of my
Yeah,
favorite
right.
movies of all time.
It's so great, and the transfer is great. The restoration is great, and it carries over all of the extras. All of the extras.
Yeah.
Plus, there's some new extras with Cameron Crowe and members of the cast. It's a great release. I can't recommend that more highly. And then just some other little odds and ends here. AMC is got season 2 of Discovery of Witches. I don't know if any of you have been watching that at all.
unfortunately not.
It's an interesting series, kind of a little bit in the vibe of like Outlander, Ron Moore's Outlander. So kind of an interesting show if you like that. Obviously Dune. We talked about Dune earlier.
Yeah.
That's so now this doesn't have the documentary, and it doesn't have the TV cut.
Right.
Both of which are going to be in the Coke release later this year, right? Even so, this is still a really nice release. The transfer is gorgeous. The transfer and remaster on Dune is gorgeous, and it's got some new features produced by Ballyhoo Films.
Daniel Griffith, yeah.
Daniel Griffith, yeah, some great. Doesn't have his documentary, but it's got a couple of featurettes he produced. It's a really nice little set. There's a featurette on the score for the film with a couple of members of Toto. It's a really nice little release. And these just showed up yesterday from
Cruella.
Disney.
And Black Widow.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Man.
they literally just showed up for review yesterday. So I'm going to crack these. I'm going to probably.
I had to pre-order the Black Widow Steelbook because I have all the Marvel Steelbooks that
Steelbook
exist.
looks dope. Looks dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would imagine it won't be long, and Shang-Chi will be announced as well. They seem to be kind of doing a weird thing with the theatrical window. Like Black Widow was available on Disney Plus, the same day it came out in theaters, and Shang-Chi's not. So I don't know how that affects the home video window, but I would imagine they'll be announcing that soon. And this is just the little odds and ends. I finally managed to get my hands on the new packaging for Solo in 4K.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so like these are for whatever reason, these were really hard to find. But like so, there's the new artwork and the new insert packaging for that. And I was able to get The Last Jedi with the new sleeve. But here's what's weird: it's still got the old insert art.
Awesome.
And it
Of course it does.
And it does, right? And it doesn't have the isolated score yet, right? Then I would assume the new version at some point there'll be a version that's got the isolated score. But at least this, the sleeve is out there in the world now. And this is what's interesting. So in the UK, they're releasing the Star Wars films now in new packaging, new artwork with the new sleeve for the Rise of Skywalker. But again, the inside it's still the same old.
Of course.
One. So it's like this weird kind of like they just seem to be like trying to sell out of their stock of these other versions and just putting slipcovers on them. But eventually, once those are all sold out,
perhaps
they'll have,
the
they'll
second
have
most
labels.
brain dead science fiction film ever made after Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah.
But we still buy it. Okay.
Yes, we do.
Guilty as charged. Guilty.
Guilty as charged.
I'm still waiting. I mean, eventually, I think eventually Mandalorian. I believe these Disney Plus TV series are going to start being released in 4K. But
Really? Do you really think so?
I think they will be eventually. But I think it may be like they may wait until there's like a complete series or something. But I do think that eventually there'll be like maybe a one-time physical media release for some of these things. I think it makes too much sense. I mean, because every collector who's got these or who's got all of the Marvel discs is going to want to get these new series eventually. And so if they do like a one-time exclusive release, I think I don't know when it's going to happen, but I have a feeling it'll happen eventually.
I just think that, Bill, between my various versions of the original version of Star Wars, I've got the 4K made off of a print.
Yeah, 4K 77.
Yeah, the 77. I've got the how many versions of the despecialized, which I've burned Blu-rays for people.
Yeah,
by the way, that is not an invitation, everyone. I am not going to burn you a Blu-ray of the original version of Star Wars or Jedi or
but they're
Empire.
out there. If you want to get them, they're out there. That you can. There are ways to download them on the internet, and it takes a little effort, but you can totally do it. And it's like, I mean, at least like they're doing God's work, man. Those guys that are doing 4K 77 and 4K 80 and 4K 83. It's like, yeah, that's heroic right there. That's
it is, man. I first of all, I can't watch the Star Wars Special Edition. I mean, there's stuff in it like I don't. You know what's the most telling thing to me? It's the shot of the Sandcrawler. There's a shot of the Sandcrawler, a new shot. I'm like, the Sandcrawler was awesome. Like, and you went and did this, and it moves too fast, and I'm like, what?
Well,
like,
and my problem with the new 4K remasters of the classic Star Wars films, 4, 5, and 6, is that they did those 4K remasters in like 2012.
Yeah.
With 2012 technology, like what I really want I want them to redo them now with today's technology, because unfortunately in 2012 they were a little bit liberal with the noise reduction and things like that. And it's like if they redid them today, they would look better. I mean, they still look pretty great, all things considered. I mean, they're better than, aside from the fact that it's the special edition versions, they're better than they've looked previously. But if they redid them today, they would look so much better than when they did them 10 years ago.
By the way, I just want to jump in. There's a few super chats, and I don't want to think that. First of all, sends in a super chat and says, "Hi, Bill Hunt, Dieter, and Rob. Hello, everyone." She sends a diamond super chat. And Justin Toner jumps in and says, "Hi, Rob and Dieter. First, I want to say it's great to have Bill Hunt on the show again. I picked up the Star Trek original film 4K set this week at my local Best Buy. I watched the motion picture 4K and it looked great. Bill's review on the digital bits convinced me to get it." There you go.
Hey man, we waited a long time for these films.
Yeah, a long time. Willow Yang is here. Of course, now that we know that she's 4'11", we have to have a name for Willow. I mean, Zephyr Chan got a nickname before Willow did, and I feel terrible about that. I love Zephyr Chan. She's amazing. But Willow Yang's been here longer, and we have she at least deserves something as good as the Funkalicious. So the Funkalicious Zephyr Chan, Willow Yang needs a nickname. By the way, so Willow says... Willow says, "I've never listened to Blackpink, but I've got to ask Rob, have you already gotten your Lalisa album?" Okay, I'm a middle-aged man with one foot in the grave, and I just want to explain. I love my K-pop girls. I love Blackpink, and my favorite member, she's Thai. My favorite member of Blackpink is Lisa. And by the way, for those of you who might want to know why she's my favorite member of Blackpink, here's a picture of her. And she just released her solo album, her first solo album called La Lisa. I do not own it. However, I encourage all of you to rush to YouTube and watch the video, La Lisa, watch the song, and you will realize why someone like myself, even an old, aging genre fan with one foot in the grave, needs hot, young, well, she's Thai, she's not Korean, hot, young girl band in their look, they're in their mid-20s. It's not too weird. They're in their mid-20s. If I was like a millionaire or a billionaire or something, I could like date one of them and it wouldn't be, people, he's rich, whatever. But Blackpink, Lisa from Blackpink has her first solo album out. Well, it's mostly like an EP, really. La Lisa, check it out. So, Willow, I have yet to pick up the album, but I will get it. The video is awesome. Willow goes on to say, or pardon me, goes on to say, love the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, Luke, and R2-D2. Don't we all? And Pod Racing Palpatine says, Disco is not dead. Hashtag wear the shirt. Well, maybe I will. I mean, you have to understand, like, me wearing a disco shirt, and it's the canonical disco shirt that you sent me that's actually in the show. Like, people that work on the Starship Discovery have shirts that say disco, and they literally run around the decks wearing their disco shirts.
And it's gold, right? It's like shiny gold. Is it?
No, this one's just like
it's not. It's just white.
Yeah, it's just white.
Okay.
And you ask yourselves, like,
the Discovery Athletics Department wear.
Yeah, I mean, do they have a gift shop on the Discovery? Is that where you get those shirts? Buy your Discovery merch. Is this like Federation standard? I don't know.
But here's get you unplugged, Rob.
Yeah, well, no, I'm never gonna get unblocked. Whatever triggered social media person blocked me, I'm like, I wear that as a badge of honor. Just so you know. Video Hunter D has a question for the three of us: To Live and Die in L.A. or Manhunter in 4K? Pick one.
To Live and Die in L.A.
To Live and Die in L.A.
By the way, shot by a German, Robbie Mueller, shot that movie. Now, I would love Manhunter in 4K. Don't get me wrong.
But why pick when you can have both?
Yeah, why? Yeah, that's right. Yes, yes. Let's get and you know what? Kino Lorber's probably going to put out Manhunter in 4K. Let's face it.
I can almost guarantee that laugh. Yeah.
Justin.
By the way, I can't wait for the rest of the Leone Man with No Name films. They're doing those as well next year.
Yeah, and I want the box set.
Yeah.
But I want the extended version of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
The one I really want. I'm really hoping that what Kino's doing is gonna encourage Paramount to put Once Upon a Time in the West in 4K.
Dude,
that's what I want. That's what I want. That's my favorite Western.
I want the Man with the Harmonica in 4K. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, I'll never forget seeing that film. I was my first job at the University of Wisconsin. Before I was a film student there, I was a projectionist for the film department as a work study job. So the first time I ever saw that movie, I was projecting that film for other students, and I can't tell you how many times I nearly missed the reel changes because I was just jaw dropped. When that reveal happens, and like you see Henry Fonda is revealed as the bad guy in that opening scene,
dude,
I almost lost it in the projection booth. It was like I'd never seen anything like that. I was so blown away.
Yep,
such a great movie.
Justin Toner, our own Justin Toner, says, I also want to share my love of Vinegar Syndrome. If you want a show guest from them, reach out to Brad Henderson. He's on Twitter. He's an acquisitions and special features producer for Vinegar Syndrome. Cool guy. He's guested on podcasts and YouTube channels. Well, you know what? He might have guested on podcasts and YouTube channels, but he hasn't guested on this one.
The one and only.
The one and only. I mean, we you know, we're the gold standard here. We're the most entertaining of YouTube.
The most
shows
all over the place, all over the world.
Yeah, we represent the world. And by the way, George Feltenstein has even been on our show now. So thank you for that, Justin. So okay, what else? I've got a stack of stuff to show.
Okay, then you.
Meanwhile, here's my Gilbert.
It's your turn.
This is Charlie.
Charlie. Charles. I gotta say, finally, it finally came. My Severin Blood for Dracula. Came. This is a beautiful set. Everything about this is great. Go Severin. Severin.
I've heard that 4K transfer. That's 4K, right?
Yep.
I've heard it's spectacular, that transfer.
It's spectacular. And look at this. I mean, original artwork.
Yeah, look at that.
I mean, they know what's up. They know their audience. I mean, how can you not love all of this? You know, they're killing it. Comes with cards, you know.
Look at that.
It's just
lobby cards, poster.
Yeah, it's just so good. And this is just a great set. You know what I'm loving? I'm loving like Synapse, people like Bob May who are able to do things like this, or Suspiria. You know, 4K Suspiria. It's fans now have kind of taken over a lot of the boutique agencies, and they're going after great stuff. Speaking of Severin, Retribution, another title from Severin I've never seen, but on the back it says relentless squishy joy. It makes us angry that we've lived this long without having seen Retribution. It's a popcorn classic. Again, how can I not want to own this? You have to own this. I don't know. I've never seen this movie.
Get them while you can, man.
Yeah, read about this. You know, it sounds great. I don't know why. I read about this, and it kind of reminded me of Fade to Black, which Vinegar Syndrome also put out. Yeah. Eric Binford lives for the movies. Sometimes he kills for them, too. The lovely Emma Bannon. I missed this. I tried to get it on Zavvi. This is one of my favorite sequels of all time. Judge Me Not. Jaws 2. This is the Steelbook. I have the Jaws Steelbook. I mean, look at that art. Right off the actual novel. Come on now.
Right.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. I have the original. I hate Jaws 3 and Jaws of Revenge. I love Jaws 2. In 1978, I was so excited for this. You know when you had to cover your books with like your school books with paper? You had to make paper covers. I think I drew this image like 10,000 times as a kid. And I put it on every book I had. I drew the shark and I did the logo. And so I was so excited when this came out in 78. I was what, 11? Jaws 2, Steelbook. Thank you, Emma Bannon. And speaking of George Feltenstein, Prince of the City, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Warner Archive. I love this movie. Treat Williams. It's a cop thriller. Love it, love it, love it. Warner Archive finally put it out on Blu-ray. Let's hear it for Warner Archive's high bit rates.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, they just announced the Tex Avery Screwball Classics Volume 3 set on Blu-ray coming in the next couple of months. And then they're also working on Volume 4 now.
I've got a couple more discs to show. From Lionsgate, their Vestron collection from Anthony Hickok's Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat. Really like this movie. I love the fact that vampires wear sunblock, SPF 100, to stop them from dying from the light of the sun. This movie's not terrific, but I still like it. A lot of great special features. Dustin Dean and the crew over at Lionsgate. I love this line. I love this Vestron line. Great to have that.
They just announced Steel Dawn too, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yeah, Steel Dawn's coming out.
That'll be the next title in that series.
Here comes another great lurid film, Hunting Ground. I'm surprised. I mean, you got to have Hunting Ground. This is from Mondo Video. It's kind of let's call it a rape revenge movie, kind of, I guess. You want to do that? Hunting Ground, definitely not woke. And boy, it's a lot of fun to have this movie.
So I can tell you what, like every time we review one of these, like there's lots of movies, like you said, that are coming out like this. Every time we review a title like this, we get flagged by Google for offensive images on our website.
Well, speaking of Kino Lorber, rape revenge, this movie actually is. This translates to Rape Me, and look at this. It comes with a warning on the cover. If you haven't seen this movie, it's a pretty rough movie. You gotta own it, right, Dieter? I mean, you own it.
Of course. It's only 77 minutes.
It is.
He's got his copy right there.
I mean, I can put this up with a Serbian film or whatever, but you gotta own it. And now I have to give it.
Nice double feature.
I know, right? You got to own it, though. I mean, I used to think that, do I want to buy all of these like hardcore offensive movies as a middle-aged man? And I'm thinking, you know why? Because one day I'm gonna, on my deathbed, I'm gonna bequeath my physical media collection to a young, impressionable kid that needs all of these things. They're enough of this woke, politically correct bullshit. Watch some really hardcore exploitation cinema and realize that's what life's all about. Life is a terrible, awful journey into madness, but worth doing. Yeah. And that's why movies like this. But I want to give out a shout out to my friend Dan Schweiger, who sent me some CDs, soundtrack CDs, reissues. Mike Figgis's score for Internal Affairs. My friend Dan Schweiger got me an autographed copy of this brand new CD that came out. It's autographed by many people. I love this score, so thank you, Dan Schweiger, for sending this to me. He also sent me the new release, Howard Shore's new release of Sliver.
Very nice.
Of that score, But then the coolest thing, the first movie I ever edited, even though I'm only called the additional editor on it, is a full moon movie called Arcade that I worked on in 1993. The Alan Howarth collection. He's a sound designer. Worked with John Carpenter. They put out Volume 2, and the score for Arcade is on this CD.
Wow, that's
so
cool.
It's there's work he did for Battle Beyond the Stars, Monsters, the series, and the Osterman Weekend on this, and Arcade. So thank you, Dan.
Speaking of soundtracks, have you gotten the new La La Land Records Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan soundtrack?
I've ordered it. I have not got it yet.
It's great.
I know.
They found first generation recording.
And our friend Neil S. Bulk was one of the people that was responsible for that.
And it sounds fantastic. It sounds fantastic. You must have it. It's a must buy.
Must buy. Sonny Dominguez, shout out to Sonny for showing up at our get together and going to see Tango Shalom. I had a little get together, and I got to drink with lots of new friends and old friends too. Brett Pierce, who directed The Wretched, came with his dad. Wow. And Sonny Dominguez came and brought me T-shirts. I've been wearing them for the last couple days. Thank you, Sonny. Sonny says, "Morning, gents. When I worked at Blockbuster, I enjoyed contributing to employee picks. The section of employee picks. Any chance we can have an employee pick? The most recommended movie after each show. Dieter can have a trash pick too. Thoughts? I think it's a great idea. We should have a weekly recommendation. I like that idea. Why not? Let's do it. Done.
Okay.
So Dieter.
Yeah, it's up to me.
Trash Panda.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Let's go.
What do you got?
Bring it, man.
Yeah, I bring two titles of the same because it's not for me. It's for you and Aaron, Rob. I've got a Bitch Slap media book for you and Aaron.
Wow, so she's gonna love that.
It will go in the next.
Hang on a second. Can you hold that just up? Let me
bring that a little closer, man.
Hang on. Let me bring it closer. Let me just can you just hold one up? Yeah, hold one up and let me see your face. Scooch it over a little bit. No, other way. Yeah. Now give me a big smile. Like, yeah, that's it. Nicely done. Thank you. I'm going to send this picture to her.
So two, one for you, one for Aaron. Okay, Bitch Slap. Then, I already own the movies, but this is a nice compilation of the great movies, 1 and 2. But this is a media book, but it's, I don't know how to describe it.
How come the Germans, man? What is it? You guys get all these cool media books.
It's not hardcover. I don't know how to describe it. It's more soft.
That's what she said.
Outside. Yeah. So you've got the two Crank movies in it.
There you go.
I just love that you guys are. I mean, I don't know. Like they're making like 1,000 of these.
Correct, Rob. Let me see if I can find the limitation. 500, Rob. 500.
That's just incredible to me.
Yeah. There's definitely a love of physical media in Germany, especially in parts of Europe. It's amazing. It's great.
It is great. By the way, Stubble McShave 6'6". Yeah. You said 6'6". Stubble McShave is 6'6". Amazing. Yeah. Stubble says, Stubble. He asks, is Where Eagles Dare available on 4K? The mountain scenery and the high kill count should be enjoyed in the best quality. I would love to get Where Eagles Dare in 4K.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely, me too. It's not, but that's a really good title. That's a really good title for 4K.
From which studio is Where Eagles Dare? I don't know.
It's MGM.
MGM.
Yeah. So that would be a perfect. That would be a perfect Kino Lorber studio.
Where eagles dare an ice station
Yeah.
zebra. Ice station zebra in 4K.
It's funny you mentioned.
Da-na-na-na. Come on,
Funny
man.
you mentioned Where Eagles Dare, because right now the I'm writing the prequel story to my novel, which is it's called Where Spacers Dare.
Oh, well, there you go.
You
By the way,
can't, you know,
Bill's
that's a good
got
title.
a series called the Space Guard series. What is the name of the first book, Bill?
Only Those Who Risk.
Only Those Who Risk. Ready to go. We're just looking for a publisher. As I
I-
say we, because if we sell it through the show, we get a little cut. But contact me. It's a great book. I've read it. I've read various iterations of it. It's very cool. And by the way, it's ripe for adaptation for any streamer. So Apple, come on, man. What are you going to do after For All Mankind? What you're going to do is the Space Guard series. Bill Hunt's
There you
writing
go.
it.
And so first one's done, and I was in the middle of writing the second novel, but now, under the advice of a mutual friend of ours, Mike Bodwin, I'm writing a prequel story which I had already mapped out, and I think we've got a plan on how to launch that actually get it and finally get this stuff out into the world.
Yeah, and you know what? If that happens, Dieter Bastian will play the guitar just like this. So there you go. Anyway, that's a Bastian metal break.
Okay. Other stuff. I've bought these movies for the first time, so I got all three together. The Before trilogy.
Wow, and that's not the Criterion version.
No, this is the German one. So just normal slipcases.
Wow,
That's outstanding.
That's cool.
I
And
love
it had a nice price. Wasn't too big.
Was it a
on the-
Schnäppchen?
on the- yeah, considering it's 3 movies, I would say it was probably around $25. I would say.
Wow.
Wow.
So
That is a
from
Schnäppchen.
Art House. So it's from Art House. I think those should be the same transfers. Just saying.
Yeah, I
hope so.
would. Yeah, I think that's probably true. How would you say mumblecore in German? Is there a German word for mumblecore?
Mumblecore. I actually don't know what that means, Rob.
Okay, like it's like the word hardcore.
Yeah. Okay.
Mumble, like it's like mumbling. I'm mumbling,
Okay.
mumbling. So mumblecore is basically people talking about how their lives are not amounting to what they want them to be, and it's very emotional,
Okay.
and so that's what mumblecore is, a genre.
It was a very late
Okay.
90s, early aughts kind of a thing, and Before Sunrise is one of the more famous
Yeah.
sort of examples of that mumblecore genre.
Oh, okay. But from the top of my head, I have to think about it if there's a German wording
There's
for.
got to be a better word. There's got to be a great German word for mumblecore.
Two titles from the UK. The first one, Cat in the Back. Her music kills. Sound of violence. Okay.
All right, I'm in.
Good. Cat in the Back. Her music kills. The next one, haven't seen the movie. Old one from Umberto Lenzi. Special edition of The Tough Ones.
Wow,
It comes from 88. So it has
88 films in the UK.
88. Yeah. There's a booklet in it, was nice. And I found out what the movie was called in German. It was called The Viper. Die Viper.
Wow.
Viper was the German wording, and it has
88 Films is another company that is doing the God's work. I mean, they put out the Super Inframan on Blu-ray.
and great. It's
Yeah.
you've got the other cover
Wow.
inside.
So is that an Italian? Is that an Italian film?
Yeah, it's an Italian film from Umberto Lenzi.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
this is the uncut version. Rob.
Oh, look at
got
that. Lovely.
The 2 poster.
Wow.
So I haven't seen this movie. It's from, let me just check if I can find it from.
It's from Umberto Lenzi. You got to watch it. You know it's going to be hardcore.
Yeah, they say boosting a state-of-the-art 4K transfer of Lenzi's uncensored director's cut. The new edition of The Tough Ones includes an incredible slate of special features and a grindhouse version of the US Brutal Justice release.
Oh, well, that's something I got to pick up.
So this was from the UK. Wait, poster is going in there. So
Actually, Bill
top
Barkley
ones?
in the chat says, he asks, is Tenet mumblecore?
That's a very good question. Several of Nolan's recent films could argue Mumblecore. Mumblecore in a Storm, maybe.
To crash your plane.
okay.
Rawr.
Some German media books. I haven't seen this. Katzig Blues.
Wow.
It's uncut now, I believe, for the first time in Germany. And this is from the Bush Media Group, where you did get your Yummy media book.
I like my Yummy media book, by the way.
It's not a new movie. It's an older one. Oh. So you can see here, Rob. It doesn't have the certification 18. This one is a step higher.
It's
This white one here.
uncertified.
Yeah. Correct.
Under 17, not admitted.
So Katzig Blues. The next one, I don't know. It's an Australian movie, I believe, an older one. Media book, Next of Kin. Is the title of it. They
Wow.
say it's an horror classic. It's an older one, but I haven't seen it. It came out with different covers. Next of Kin. The next one, I was really happy to get it, but unfortunately, not every cat in the bag is a good buy. It is released in Germany under another title.
Why don't you explain to Bill what a cat in the bag is?
A cat in the bag is you buy just the title, Bill.
Well, hang on. You got to tell him it's a German. Wait. You got to explain it's a German saying. You got to pretend he knows nothing.
Okay. A cat in the bag is an old German saying. You know, Germans always translate movie titles differently.
Right.
So the peoples know what they are getting with the title, and they don't like to be, let's say, surprised. And there was I had to check where this saying was coming from. It was back in the day when you traded livestock, and if you didn't check the bag, if there really was a pig in it, and you came home and there was a cat in the bag, you got screwed. So if I buy a cat in the bag Blu-ray, it's a title I don't nothing about. Haven't seen any trailers, heard nothing about it. Okay, I did some research probably. So this is only out in Germany, but unfortunately it wasn't. Yeah, it was trashy. Army of One, but the main actress Ellen Holman. I hope I say her name.
Look at that cover, though.
That's
Ellen
great.
Holman. She will be returning in Matrix 4. She has a role in Matrix 4. So this is the uncut version. And Rob, it's actually totally up my alley. They left her for dead. Big mistake. No mistake, but
I'm just still loving that expression.
Cat in the bag.
Never surprise a German. Never surprise a German.
Well, they're that in one of my favorite movies, The Sweet Smell of Success. There is a phrase: "The cat in the bag, the cat's in the bag, and the bag's in the river." So, yeah, not so good.
And considering our praise for Vinegar Syndrome, I bought another one with the Terminal Island because Andrew Dice Clay is in it. I don't know about it. Whatever it takes with Ludwig Phillips, with Don Wilson is in it, and Fred Williamson. Comes with a poster, and it has
I'm in. Count me in.
the other cover artwork.
Look at that.
Whatever, and I like those sturdy box.
I love Vinegar Syndrome. Does great with their boxes. The
They really
packaging
understand
rules.
Packaging.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the thing is there are companies that are really great with packaging, but the content of the discs aren't so good.
Right.
Right. I love it. A company like Vinegar Syndrome where you get both. Where it's
Yeah,
both.
incredible.
Great content, great cover.
The best of both worlds together
Exactly.
in one package.
And by the way, Dieter, I've got a question for you. So I just found out that Coke Films is releasing Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood
Correct.
for Love and Happy Together in 4K.
Yeah, correct.
So what I want to know is, I'm curious to know if that disc is likely to have English subtitles, or will it be likely to be just German subtitles?
A try.
By the way, Dieter, both of those movies I need to have in 4K. I'm just saying.
I would imagine Criterion. I mean, obviously the Criterion released that beautiful Blu-ray box set.
In
That
the
is an
mood for love,
obvious
4K.
title to do 4K for them. But I just don't know how soon that'll happen.
Let me see if I can. Unfortunately, Amazon
they're-
says nothing about the technical specs.
Yeah, I think they're coming like November. 25th.
Unfortunately, they only say here subtitles German. But
Yeah,
probably,
okay.
Bill, I will get those titles. If there is anything other than that, I will let Rob know about
Outstanding.
because we all know sometimes technical specs are not correct.
Yeah, yeah.
on
And I've got it's amazing.
what it says.
When I found out about that, I got a lot of bits readers. They're like, "Oh my god,
Okay.
can we import?" And it's like, well, maybe. But
And In the Mood for Love, and the other one was
happy together.
Happy together.
Happy Together.
Yeah,
Let-
I
Both
think
movies
Coach is
star
gonna end
Tony
up
Leung.
doing all of those
My
films.
man Tony Leung is in both of those movies.
Yeah.
I will check if on the Koch film websites they say something differently about the tech specs.
The Wong Kar
But it
Wai
could
stuff
be-
is so great. It's that's just so visually like striking and engrossing. Those 4Ks will be amazing.
Now, I heard from Catherine, who's an avid watcher of this channel, that one of her discs was defective, and she contacted Criterion. This is specifically about the Wong Kar Wai
postcard.
set that they
Okay.
and then the Criterion said, we're just going to send you replacements for all of the discs. Have you heard
Oh.
anything about this? I haven't read anything about this. I haven't gone through the set yet.
I haven't heard anything in terms of like a defect, but I can imagine if they're just trying to send the whole thing, it's probably this replication shortage, right? Like
Right.
Criterion probably doesn't have individual discs, replacement discs they can just send out. So they're just sending out the whole set makes sense. And maybe they did discover a defect in some early sets and they did a running production change. So
Could be, yeah. I don't know, and
Yeah.
it was interesting that she said that, and she said it was because she was like 75 minutes into one of her discs, and it went all crazy. Everything was nuts.
Yeah,
So-
well, and as we know too, like the player manufacturers and studios kind of these days sort of struggle to keep on top of errors and things. So there are my Oppo set still won't play some of the Fox James Bond, the Daniel Craig James Bond
Oh,
films,
okay.
and I got like 3 replacement copies of that, and the Oppo still won't play a couple of them.
Wow.
It skips and freezes and stuff like that, and it's apparently it's an issue just unique to Oppo because it plays fine on other players. But I know recently the people have been reporting some problems with Paramount.
No
4K
update
titles on the
changed
Sony
that?
PlayStation.
No update changed that situation? No update?
I don't know.
Wait,
It's
are you
hard-
saying that there's problems being played in the PlayStation?
Yeah, apparently a couple of bits readers have reported that the PlayStation is struggling with a
PlayStation
couple
5?
titles. Yeah, I think so. And so what has to happen ultimately? It's either it's an error on the disc or it's a firmware problem on the on the player, and so the studios and the manufacturers have to coordinate to fix that stuff. And it used to be that they would jump on that stuff right away, and now it's a little bit of a slower process. But
Yeah, I mean,
This is
my first Blu-ray player, Mary Forrest got me a PlayStation 3, and that was my first Blu-ray player, and
Yeah,
I loved
mine
it.
too.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I bought the remote for it. I loved, and now I have a PlayStation 5, and I love it. I love as a Blu-ray
Great thing.
player, 4K player. It's great.
the great thing about the PlayStation and also the Xbox, like supporting 4K, is that basically gives us at least 10 more years of physical media, right?
Yeah.
Because the average lifespan for one of these console systems is about 10 years.
Yeah.
And so that gives you, I mean, at least we know for sure that that hardware is going to be out there for,
Yep.
for the next 10 years, which means there's players, there's going to continue to be players. And I mean, obviously in the last couple of years, because of the pandemic, Hollywood especially has realized, oh my God, there's money to be made in discs. Surprise. Right? Because for years they were trying to push away from physical media to emphasize digital. But then, and that was at a time when all of their revenues were really based on theatrical releases, right? But then when the pandemic hit and theatrical got crushed, they were desperate for revenue, and they realized, oh wow, we can still make a lot of money with discs. but they'd spent so many years moving toward digital that a lot of replication plants closed.
Yep.
So today there isn't as much replication capacity, but all these studios are trying to put out big third and fourth quarter box sets and titles, and there's just not enough capacity to manufacture enough copies. That's what we're having. That's the problem right now.
Yeah. Well, that brings up. Well, first of all, Danzig 1979 asks, "Hi, gents. 2 questions for Bill. Will the remainder of the Netflix Marvel shows get a Blu-ray release?" That's an interesting question. And will there be a UK release for Superman the Animated Series?
So that's a very good question, and I don't have the answers to either of those. The second question, Superman the Animated Series, it's a Warner Archive title, right? So
it should be region free.
Right. So it's very, very possible it could be region free. Warner Brothers titles usually are region free, so that would be very good. I don't know who would distribute Warner Archive titles I would assume it'd be, but I don't know what happens with Warner Archive titles in the UK or in Europe, but in theory it should be region free. As to the Netflix Marvel shows, boy, that's maybe somewhere around the world, like maybe in Australia or New Zealand, I could see there, because there's a lot of streaming shows that aren't released in physical media in North America, but will come out maybe in Australia or New Zealand or some other places on Blu-ray. But aside from that, I can't imagine. I mean, Disney is not really being very aggressive with physical media right now, especially
they have no reason to be, because
right.
they're what people don't understand, I think, is that physical media is under a threat because Disney is putting everything on Disney Plus. They have no incentive to release physical media at all. They'll make money. They'll still pick up some cash.
Right.
But what they want is you to subscribe to Disney Plus, because then they know they're going to get, what is it, $8 now a month from 100 million people?
Yeah.
No studio has ever had that kind of revenue. I mean, they have a stable monthly revenue source that shows profitability where there never used to be profitability. So,
and they've got an extraordinary slate of exclusive stuff that they're pumping onto that service, right?
Yeah.
And the thing of it is like the Netflix stuff, there would be a chance of those titles coming out in a market where Netflix doesn't necessarily exist, where they would to release in that market they have to go physical media. But the problem is now those Netflix Marvel shows are basically kind of stranded, because everything is, all that stuff came to an end because of course Disney wants all that on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So they have no incentive at all to release that stuff on physical media. There's no incentive at all to do it. So boy, that's going to be unlikely. Never say never, but right now I would say it's pretty unlikely.
I was at an event a couple days ago that I was one of the hosts of, where I was interviewing the costume designers for Spider-Man No Way Home, Infinity War and Endgame, and while they did not tell me anything, because why would you? That would be suicide. There was other people that conveyed certain things to me that I will not reveal. But let's just say if they were ever to incorporate elements of the Marvel Netflix shows into the MCU, the Marvel proper universe, maybe we'll see a little bit more synergy, and maybe there would be some way to get. But again, those shows were produced by Netflix too. I mean, Netflix put up the money, so they're owned by Netflix.
Right, that's exactly right. And neither of those companies, neither Disney nor Netflix, has a financial reason or incentive to release those things on physical media, right? It's not like some of the Warner Brothers DC shows where they are actually, where it's a production company, it's Sony or it's Warner Brothers who actually handles the production. Then they've got incentive to release on physical media, but Netflix and Disney don't have that.
I believe Daredevil came out in the UK season 1 and 2, and I believe Jessica Jones came out too, the first season.
Yeah,
but I don't think Iron Fist or Luke Cage
did
get released. They started.
Never say never. It's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting is unless they pop up somewhere, because are they still on Netflix? Those shows they're still
Yeah,
on.
believe or
Yeah,
they should be on.
yeah.
On Netflix.
If I mean, I don't know what their rights deal is, but Marvel wants to take everything under their own roof anyway.
Umbrella.
Right.
And I just think that if there's any kind of crossover, maybe we can get releases of
Yeah.
those things. Because
And I know that there are a lot of streaming shows in Australia and New Zealand get released. Stuff that streams
Yeah.
here, but it gets a physical media release in that territory because the streaming services don't have access there. So, for example, Amazon produced that Sound of Metal a couple of years ago. That great
Movie.
drama film.
Yeah.
And that is, you can get the Random Space Media that did the Battlestar set I showed earlier. They've done a Blu-ray of that, an all-region Blu-ray in Australia. So you can get that. So there are distributors that are putting that stuff out. It's just a matter of the rights on those are complicated, and it really depends a lot on who the production companies are. And if it's Netflix or Disney proper, they just don't have the incentive to do physical media.
right.
Great.
But yeah, I mean, all I can say is the other day got me even more excited for both Spider-Man No Way Home and, believe it or not, Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever. Just saying. Look,
Yeah.
I'm an unabashed Marvel fanboy. I can't wait for Eternals, but they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
They know what they're doing.
Shang-Chi shows that they know what they're doing, man.
Yeah.
Because that's certainly not a title that I had a lot of knowledge of growing up, and they killed it with that film.
Well, to be fair, the Shang-Chi that we saw is very different. Like, I was a huge Shang-Chi, the Hands of Master of Kung Fu, the Hands of Shang-Chi. I love that comic. Shang-Chi was very much James Bond meets Bruce Lee. It was an international spy movie, and what they decided to do, because Marvel adapts different genres, they went full on wuxia. They're Chinese fantasy epic, and I loved it for that, and I thought it was great. I loved Shang-Chi, loved it. But I think
And it's ironic that it's maybe not going to get a Chinese release. That film apparently is not going to get a release.
I mean, talk about. I mean, for a totalitarian government, they sure have a thin skin over there. I mean, come on, you guys. So somebody in the West
definitely don't put Winnie the Pooh or anything you want to release in China. That's
yeah, I mean, give me a break. You guys don't be so thin-skinned. But totalitarian regimes, they're very insecure. They're what are you gonna do? I mean, look. We've ceded half the world to them, so whatever. It's our fault.
Yeah. Well, at least we know No Time to Die apparently just got cleared for release in China.
I know, which is great. And by the way, I don't know some of our viewers, some people have said to me they've seen it. A couple people and said it's epic. Like it's a Bond film for the ages. Which it kind of looks that way, so I can't wait.
At least
there's
it's the
a
longest.
great new 45-minute kind of a documentary on Apple TV Plus called Being James Bond, which is a 45-minute look at the Daniel Craig era. And what they did is the Barbara Broccoli and the who's the other producer of the Bond?
Michael Wilson
sit down with Daniel Craig for like an hour and just talk candidly about his entire era of Bond, his experiences, all the controversies, all the the ups and downs, and it's just a really candid interview, and it's all set to behind the scenes footage and film footage. 45 minutes, Apple TV Plus. It is really worth watching, man. It's very, very good.
Maybe it'll show up on the 4K of No Time to Die.
I sure hope so. I can't wait to see
So,
that.
Bill, speaking of that, do you think we're going to see next year, 2022, is the 60th anniversary of the Bond franchise on film. 60 years.
So the rumor is, and we don't know what studio it is, unfortunately, but apparently Goldfinger has been solicited for release on 4K Steelbook in Europe. We don't know what the studio is yet, who's distributing. And my guess is, I think Universal has worldwide rights to the Bond catalog, and I think that it's either, and I think Warner Brothers has the domestic rights to the classic Bond films now. After all the the sale of the Disney purchase of Fox, and the Bond rights severed from Fox because Disney didn't want them. They were floating up in the air for a while. I think Warner Brothers got the rights to the classic Bond catalog here in the States, and then the new film and all new films going forward, the worldwide rights are owned by Universal, and I think Universal owns the catalog rights worldwide. So, in theory, there may be a plan to release for the 60th anniversary a lot of those classic Bond films in 4K.
Come on, bro. What about a big box set? 60th anniversary. I want them all in one big box.
I agree. And the question is will they do them in singles? Will they do them as, Daniel Craig and Roger Moore and like Pierce Brosnan, like box sets, like Fox did for a while there? But I mean, next year's the year to do it, and it'll be very interesting to see. And so in the U.S., those would be coming either, Universal and Warner Brothers have their studio distribution services, SDS operation now that distributes all their titles. They would be coming from those guys, I think, if they are coming in the U.S. But apparently there is a Goldfinger Steelbook 4K set already solicited for release in Europe. So that's a good sign. My guess is we'll probably see them, because why not? Why wouldn't they do it? It's physical media is making money. It's the 60th anniversary. Why in the world would they not want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, although they're talking about starting up a new franchise, I just can't believe, if I was Barbara Broccoli or Michael Wilson. By the way, Barbara Broccoli, talk about a dream girl, a woman whose job in life is to make James Bond movies. That's it. That's her family business. Yeah. I can't imagine something cooler than that. But I just think how do you? It took so long to get. This is the longest time between Bond films before was between License to Kill in '89 and GoldenEye in '95, and that was 6 years. And I believe that because of the pandemic, obviously it wasn't going to be that way. But Spectre, I think we're even further out. I mean, it's still 6 years from Spectre was 2015. Now we're at the end of 2021. Or toward the end. I think this actually exceeded that length of time, because it used to be every 2 years we got a Bond film. Yep. So I can't imagine, like Michael Wilson's, I think he's 80 now, and Barbara Broccoli's pushing 70. I wouldn't be surprised if they sell the franchise. Now, they haven't made any indication of that.
Barbara Broccoli in this documentary does say something to the effect that she has a hard time picturing what Bond looks like after Daniel Craig leaves. And I will say, I think Daniel Craig is a great Bond. Now, some of these films haven't been as good as I wanted them to be.
No.
Because, the writer's strike that happened with Quantum of Solace and various things. But Casino Royale is that may be my favorite Bond film, honestly. I love that film so much. And I really hope No Time to Die. I really hope Craig goes out on a major high note with this.
I think I mean, I don't know anything about it. People have said it's great, but I think it's going to be.
I've heard.
I think it might be. I'm hoping. I go into every Bond film thinking it's going to be the greatest Bond film ever. I think this might very well be. Maybe it will be.
I hope so, because boy, it'd be awfully hard to talk. Casino Royale is so great. That is such a great film. And in this documentary, they get into how choices that Craig actually had creative input and made some decisions, made some contributions that when you see what they did to that film, made that film better.
You mean in terms of No Time to Die or Casino Royale?
Casino Royale.
Yeah.
And I just can't. And they also get into his comment about how he would rather, slit his wrists or whatever than play Bond again, right? Because he did so many of the stunts in these films that he got hurt on almost every one of these films.
Yep.
So it's like he says at one point, it's like it's like I'm 20 yards from the finish line of a marathon. And somebody asks me, "Would you like to run another marathon?" He's like, "No, right? No, I don't want to run another marathon."
Right.
Now. But it's, so
I got Rachel Weisz at home. I got work to do, buddy. Come on.
Right. And social media picks up all that stuff and blows it way out of proportion and everything. But it's like, I'd forgotten too how against Daniel Craig fans were. Originally.
Oh my God, dude. The same, people forget. I mean, they were against him. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes. Just ridiculous.
And he's ended up being one of the greatest Bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, Casino Royale was such a great film. It's it just tells you that sometimes fandom, like, gets it wrong, man. Really gets it wrong.
We get it wrong all the time.
That's why that's why it's really important to go into these things with an open mind. Don't prejudge this stuff. Go into every experience with an open mind.
How can Heath Ledger be the Joker? Oh my God!
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Right.
It's not good.
Yeah, don't worry about this stuff. Don't hand wring it, man. Let these filmmakers have a chance to win you over, because boy, they sure did with Casino Royale.
Yeah,
That was an epic. That was an epic 180.
Bill Hitchhiker 42 asks, any info on the 4K Aliens and the Abyss special editions? James Cameron could have been doing the restoration during the last 18 months. Oh no, he's been making four Avatar movies, but yeah, dude, I don't.
Right.
I find the Lightstorm, the lack of Lightstorm product, beginning with the Abyss in '88. Of course, we have no Abyss, and then the director's cut of the Abyss, and then True Lies, and then Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days, and Steven Soderbergh's Solaris. Now, thanks to Dieter, I have Solaris as a media book on Blu-ray, which is beautiful. Soderbergh, but they're all Lightstorm movies. Strange Days previously came out in about 10 years ago. It came out on Blu-ray in Germany. Blu-ray is still great. I love Strange Days. But Aliens and the Abyss, I mean, Aliens is not a Lightstorm thing, but so where's the Abyss and True Lies, which I find it odd.
But see, it's all down to Cameron, right? So new transfers of the Abyss and True Lies were prepared. Not new transfers. I think they were remastered, but they weren't fully new transfers. So a few years ago, when we said on the bits, hey, Fox is working on new special Blu-ray special editions of the Abyss and True Lies, they completed new special editions of those two films for Blu-ray release, and then they couldn't release them because Cameron wouldn't approve them. And when you asked, I was at an event. I was at an event with a representative from Fox and a representative from Cameron on stage, and I asked directly, when are the Abyss and True Lies coming? And the Fox guy pointed to James Cameron and said, ask him. And James Cameron pointed to the Fox guy and said, ask him. It was clearly some kind of political runaround thing happening. There was gamesmanship going on. So what's happened since? The Alien films have gotten and are getting and or have already gotten new 4K remasters, because I think Disney does plan to release those things in a couple of years,
because they have Noah Hawley's new Aliens series happening.
Tied into that, they're going to release. They want them on their streaming service too, right? So that will happen. True Abyss got a transfer a year or two ago. I think 2 years ago.
But that was the theatrical version that's now streaming.
Right, exactly. But I believe the remastering work is done. It's just down to James Cameron having the time and or willingness to approve it. Same thing with Terminator 2, right? So Studio Canal released Terminator 2 on 4K.
Yeah, it's god awful.
It was god awful because what they did, apparently, there's a beautiful new 4K scan of Terminator 2. But in order to create the 3D version that went out in theaters, which Studio Canal produced, they took that master and they scrubbed it of grain and fine detail in order to make 3D post-conversion easier. Well, then the mistake they made was when they released it in 4K, they used that master rather than going back to the proper scan, right?
So should I buy this new Zavi box? Should I buy the new Zavi box set that comes with the?
No, because it's the same. It's the same 3D master, unfortunately, and the problem is Studio Canal doesn't seem to understand that they made a mistake. That 4K disc is just terrible. It's that 4K disc may be the worst 4K disc that's been released.
It's hideous.
It's terrible. It's terribly bad.
Except the box set that Dieter has is amazing.
Right, but it's like they need to do a new release. They need to fix that release. Go back to the original 4K scan and put it out. And if James Cameron had been focused on this stuff, if he had time to be focused on this stuff, I don't think this would have happened. But he's so busy with Avatar, he's so focused on Avatar that all of this stuff has fallen by the wayside. The good news, though, is I believe that as those films get closer to release, everybody's going to go, okay, we want to, now's the time to re-release all this stuff, properly remastered on Blu-ray, on 4K, So that time will come over the next year or two, I believe. And I'm sure Paramount will also want to do Titanic in 4K. I mean, everybody's going to want to get on that promotional bandwagon and tie in Cameron releases in 4K and Blu-ray. It's just taken its time, and it seems to be taking its time because Cameron doesn't have his eye on the ball. He's focused on the films.
Which is, I mean, I don't blame him, but seriously, I mean, you can multitask.
Yeah, how hard is it to? Like,
it seems strange. Like, we reviewed The Abyss on Whining About Movies, and boy, that film really holds up, especially the director's cut. It's although I'll bet you that Cameron would want to go back and refine some of those new effect shots. Now that he could,
and maybe he's aware that that he knows it's a rabbit hole that he'll disappear down. He will not be able to help himself from doing it, and maybe that's why he's just putting it off. But I think we'll get him eventually. And I know that the Alien films are being worked on, and I know that Disney's got a plan to remaster those, get them out. So I think it'll happen over the next.
Well, the original Alien 4K is great.
I've given up trying to predict it though, because man, I'm telling you, like Fox was telling me, we've got a beautiful Blu-ray special edition of True Lies and Abyss sitting on the shelf. We can't release it. Like, it's a shame.
Well, now, Bill, since you're here, let me ask you your assessment. Obviously, Dieter and I we're going to be the last people buying. I mean, if one company has like one more disc to buy before the apocalypse happens, we're going to be buying them and talking about them on the show. But now, I mean, you've been covering the industry for over 20 years. You've seen it ebb and flow. We're here where we are now. Streaming has irrevocably changed Hollywood forever.
Yeah.
What is your assessment of the future? I mean, and by the way, I freely acknowledge that collecting movies might be an archaic pastime. And the reason that I collect movies is not everything's available on streaming. As a matter of fact, half of my collection's not available on streaming. It's hard to find a lot of the trash panda over here. Dieter will buy things that who knows where those movies are going to be, and I think that part of why you collect these things is because I don't know if I'm ever going to watch half of what I've bought. When am I going to watch Blood for Dracula again? I don't know, but you know what, Severin, look at this. This deserves my money. The preservation of this, this presentation, even the cover, everything about this was just beautifully thought out, and they deserve. If they're doing that, then fuck yeah, Severin. I'm going to buy this title and put it in my library.
Well, and we have to remember that, like, one of the reasons look, physical media, you could argue it's bad for the environment, the packaging, all of that. Like, there are lots of reasons why that's true. But we also have to remember that it's the success of physical media that paid for the restoration and preservation of, like, most of the great films in Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. And now with what Kino is doing and what all these other companies are doing, it's like they're getting into deep catalog and doing new 4K scans and new masters and new restorations. And it's like, if physical media didn't exist, if it had never existed, we would have lost a lot of films, like a lot of films. And so for me, that's always been the number one reason why I love physical media. And a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I would have my opinion of like the future of physical media was pretty grim, because the industry was on a path to basically make physical media obsolete. They were on a path to do that as soon as they could, honestly.
Yeah.
They wanted to move everybody, and they still do. They want to move everybody to digital. But the pandemic, to the extent that you can say that there's any upside, it made them realize, wow, there's still money to be made here. And we can still put these movies on disc and do a nice remaster or whatever, and people will buy them. And that's money that, maybe before the pandemic, they could leave that on the table, but now they can't afford to leave it on the table. So we're getting all these great discs. I mean, it's been kind of it's almost like a second, I don't want to say a second golden age, but it's amazing what's coming out on Blu-ray and 4K right now.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, everything that's being remastered in 4K is being future-proofed. I mean, 4K is the end of the line for physical media. There's not going to be an 8K format. Totally 4K is it. And they're not going to go back. Like 4K, the studios are going to finish remastering in 4K, and that'll, for the most part, that'll be the end of it, because the human eye can't perceive much more than 4K anyway.
Right.
But
and frankly, some of these negatives, there isn't more than 4K of information in those negatives.
No,
Especially these older films, right?
and a lot of them are mastered, like the Marvel movies, in 2K because the effects are done in 2K.
Right.
But what I find interesting is that, okay, so they're going back because on streaming services, everybody's going to have 4K TVs. That's the format. So they're going to need these things at that resolution.
Yes.
That's where things will live.
Yeah.
So
and the thing about it is, if you're doing a brand new 4K remaster, why not take the bite of the apple and you can put it on your streaming service, but why not, sell it for $30 on disc and make that money too, right? Like, why not?
Yeah.
I know.
And the thing of it is I look ahead and I feel like physical media's got at least another good 10 years. I mean, there's.
Do you really think that long?
Yeah, I think so. I think the people who are buying this stuff, who want this stuff, will be around and will continue to. Companies like Kino Lorber Studio Classics and Criterion will continue to see the value in doing these releases. But there is no doubt whatsoever that digital is now. I think we've crossed this tipping point where digital is now the main way most people are getting their content.
Yes.
Digital, either downloads or streaming services. That's now the mainstream thing, and so it's the physical media thing is now a collector's niche, and I think there's a good 10 years. There's a good 10 years left of this, especially as long as these game systems continue to support 4K and Blu-ray. Then you've at least got the players out there, right? And so yeah, I think. Do I think 30 years from now we're all going to be here collecting discs? No,
I'll be dead.
So. Right, exactly, right. And we have to recognize that collectors are, by and large, people our age, right?
Yeah.
So, but right now there's disposable cash, and people are willing to buy these things and collect them. As long as that continues, I would say 10 years. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
again, I would have said a lot. It would end a lot sooner before the pandemic, but I think the pandemic has kind of pushed a pause button on the decline of physical media for now.
Well,
so my advice to everybody is support these companies that are doing great work. Support these studios that are doing great remasters. I know everybody wants to be picky, and everybody, if it's not perfect, we better start the change.org petition or whatever. It's like, look, never let perfect be the enemy of the good. If there's good work being done, support it. That's what I say. So when you can afford to if you want the rest of the Star Trek films in 4K, buy this set. You can go, but I want better packaging, and I get it. I want better packaging too. But right now, Paramount's put a lot of money. They put millions of dollars into restoring these films. They've done a pretty darn good job. If you want the rest of these films in 4K, buy this set right now. Don't wait. Buy this set right now.
Bill, I pre-ordered that shit. I can't buy it right now. I mean, I pre-ordered it. They didn't send it to me because they ran out.
Right, exactly.
They've run out. Now,
which sends a good message to the studio, at least, right? They go, oh, wow, people want to buy this. So that's a good thing. And now, we have to remember, I was afraid we were never going to get 4K scans of these films. It was an effort of years and years to convince Paramount to have the courage to spend the money to remaster these films in 4K. It was an enormous effort.
Right.
And they're doing it. And for example, the Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition, it's going to be exclusively on Paramount Plus for a little while. But you know what? Great, because Paramount Plus paid for it to happen.
Yeah, of course.
They're paying for it to happen. So you know what?
Same with Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's exactly right. My thing is, look, every time a title gets announced, I hear just an enormous volume of people complaining about this. The cover artwork is terrible. It doesn't include this version. It's too expensive. The extras got whatever. Yeah, I hear all of that. I understand it, but we're on the downslope of physical media, and when you see good work being done, you've got to support it. And the more you do that, the more you support good work on Blu-ray and 4K being released, the longer we'll continue to get Blu-ray and 4K being released. And because we don't want what happened to this stuff, what happened to the Star Trek The Next Generation remastered project, right? Where everybody said, I don't know if I want to buy season 7 or 8 now. Maybe I'll wait. I'll wait and buy the complete series box set. And because a lot of people made that decision, Those last few seasons sold terribly worldwide. Right?
Terribly. Dude, as someone who worked on them, it was incredibly demoralizing
Yeah.
to work. Like, I spent 3 years of my life, for those people who diss me on social media and all that, I worked for CBS and Paramount on Star Trek for 3 years with Roger Lay.
Yeah.
We were the only people in the world creating brand new content for Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each one of we had 90 minutes of brand new documentaries and then all kinds of other special features.
Yeah.
But when I started seeing the remasters of those episodes, it was like I would weep. The episodes look so good. I'd never seen Next Generation. People they don't understand just how different the 2K remasters of Star Trek: The Next Generation are compared to the originals. They don't get it. Yeah. And Paramount, there was no way to convey. I mean,
and look, in people's defense, I get it, because Paramount was releasing these things. Like, there was a new season of Star Trek on Blu-ray like every other month,
I know,
and they were like $80, right? And I get it. Once you got into after the original series and Enterprise and the Next Generation, like, you started getting in there, people's wallets were stressed out, and the studios were they had a really bad habit of, releasing those individual seasons at a high price, and then they'd release them all together in a box for a lower price, and they'd usually put like a cool bonus disc in there. So people had a reason to wait. But the problem is because so many people waited and didn't buy right away, we didn't get Deep Space Nine remastered, because CBS Digital looked at the costs and the sales and said, we can't justify this anymore.
I mean, I think one of the great tragedies is, why wasn't that team in place? And they just, it took, people don't understand, it took 4 years to remaster the 178 episodes of Next Generation into 2K. 4 years of a team of 30 working every day.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I went into Paramount, like, when they were talking about the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, they wanted to know what they should do, and they invited me to come talk to them about it. And I said, listen, you've got a team in place right now at CBS Digital that could do this remastering work. Like, not only for the films, but like for Deep Space Nine. The team is right there. The time is right now. It'll never be less expensive than it is right now. You've got the people doing it. Like, why not do it, right? And they couldn't pull the trigger on it. They remastered Star Trek 2 in 4K, and that was it. And it's like, great that they did that, and they put the animated series out on Blu-ray, but it's like, it is so hard to convince the studios to do this kind of work. It really, really is.
You know what I really wanted to see happen? CBS Digital did a test of updating the animated series.
Yeah.
And I had written a proposal about taking the actual audio from the animated series, just take the audio and farm it out to there are 22 animated Star Trek. By the way, can I just say that at this Star Trek Day, there was no mention of the animated series. We have 2 new Star Trek animated series. You have Lower Decks and Prodigy coming out. There was no mention. They're like, here's all the Star Trek shows. The animated series was scrubbed clean from Star Trek Day.
And they talked about Prodigy as the first Star Trek targeted to kids, and it's like, what?
And I'm like, basically, if I can just go on my soapbox, it's like, fuck you. The original animated Star Trek series is an award-winning series, and it was created by Roddenberry. You had a lot of the writers from the original series, and of course, all the voice casts except Walter Koenig. And
it's
of course,
essentially like the 4th season of the original series.
It really is. It really is. And
David Gerald wrote for that. I mean,
this to me is, again, it's because they want to position the people at Secret Hideout want to position their animated shows as being some groundbreaking thing, and it's like, give me a break. Are you kidding me? When Star Trek went into strip syndication in 72 and became successful, that immediate success was what greenlit the animated series, which was 73, 74.
Yeah.
And for kids too, like, even though I was already a Star Trek fan, Mego, the merchandising of Mego action figures and all that stuff, the animated series, arguably there is a argument to be made that not just Star Trek's success in strip syndication, but the animated show as well was vital to Star Trek's survival. And when they were celebrating,
Yeah.
when they're doing Star Trek Day, they scrubbed that from the show. And people like Aaron Harvey, who's a Facebook friend of mine, who I've a really great guy, wrote a book. Co-wrote a book about the animated series, and it's like, how is it that you guys are? This is why the treatment of modern Star Trek is so maddening. I mean, you had these two bubble-headed girls that I've never even watched Discovery. Why are you on the red carpet hosting this show? Why? Why did someone why were you hired to do this? Now, I don't mean to be mean to them, but how
No, I get it.
Who made that decision? Like, why don't you hire somebody like Jason Inman and Ashley V. Robinson, who are comic creators, who are fans and have done great work, and they're why not hire people like them to host these shows? Who is making these decisions? And it is the way the Star Trek.com website has been run. And by the way, this is not me being spicy because I was blocked by Paramount Plus. I mean, my God, somebody at Paramount Plus. I'm a Paramount Plus customer, and I was blocked by a service that I pay for.
I tell you, the thing that frustrates me. So the guy who's the co-producer of Strange New Worlds is a gentleman who has produced Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Lost in Space, I, Robot, I Am Legend, Divergent, Insurgent, The Fifth Wave, Transformers: The First Night, and The Dark Tower. What about that list of genre titles suggests that is the right person? That's the right person to produce Star Trek. Those are terrible films. They're terrible films. Why in the world? I mean, hey, he's produced a lot of genre films.
Because I'll give you two words, Bill, and I'm sure he pulls this out in every meeting. Academy Award-winning writer. Now. Every time I ever see like Akiva, I've actually met Akiva Goldsman. He was a friend of one of the producers of Free Enterprise, and he was a perfectly fine, nice gentleman.
Yeah,
but
sure
science fiction is not his genre. He directed the pilot of Strange New Worlds.
Right.
And
he's
not
Kevin Feige. He's not like that's the thing is Kevin Feige. Why the reason he's so successful at Marvel is because he has deep knowledge of that franchise.
And by the way,
history.
He's made that his life's ambition. I mean,
right.
the reason that I'm such a huge Kevin Feige fan is Kevin Feige's like, my life is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and right. and by the way, people forget he produced 13 Marvel movies. He worked in a producing capacity on 13 Marvel films before the MCU. He saw what worked, what didn't work. Elektra didn't work. Mark Steven Johnson, Daredevil kind of worked. Whatever he knew, he knew. And remember, him and Jeff Johns were interns working for Richard Donner. I mean, the guy decided.
And by the way, look at.
No, go ahead.
Look, I'm just going to say, like, look at Star Wars, right? Star Wars is now being run by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who have deep knowledge, right? Jon Favreau, the guy who basically helped launch the MCU,
right?
And
right.
And Dave Filoni, who was George Lucas's like basically apprentice, and
Filoni,
these people have deep knowledge of this stuff.
And Filoni has been imparted all the knowledge of what Lucas's inception or conception of the Force and all that stuff was. Yeah. And what's interesting is, lest we forget, the person that engineered their meeting was Kathleen Kennedy.
Right.
She was the person that put Favreau and Filoni together. And everyone like I don't think The Mandalorian is Godfather 2 by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll tell you what, it has carried on the Star Wars legacy in grand fashion. I mean, Star Wars changed my life. I saw Empire Strikes Back 26 times in the theater.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, like I don't understand why. Like, here's the thing. The proof is in the pudding. What you see is what you get. The Bad Robot Star Trek movies, from a cost-benefit standpoint, they did not make money. Everyone's like, well, they made 500. They barely made $500 million.
Yeah.
But Into Darkness, from what I heard, between marketing and what it cost, was almost $300 million total. It did not earn back its, I mean, globally, like almost 500 million. No, it failed. Yeah. Like all three of those movies failed monetarily.
Right.
And yet the same was true. I mean, look at J.J. Abrams. You make a $2 billion grossing film, and then your third movie is half that.
Right.
But
like, look, Alex Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman and people like that have shown that they can produce. They can run the sausage factory, man, with efficiently, and they can produce content. They can produce 5 shows at once. But are any of those shows going to be great? Right? Do they have the deep knowledge of Star Trek that suggests that they should be the keepers of this franchise going forward, like Favreau and Filoni, like Kevin Feige?
Well, the question I would ask you is like that moment when Luke Skywalker shows up at the end of Mandalorian season 2. That was a cultural zeitgeist moment.
It was.
Everybody
talked about it.
There has been none of that in modern Star Trek. Yeah. The only people that are paying attention to Star Trek are Star Trek fans, and and that fan base is divided. And when I watched that Star Trek Day, you know, the girls, I'm sure they were happy to have that job, but the people they had, those 2 girls hosting that show, to me set the tone. That's where we're at. You know, Star Trek is this wacky thing that even the modern executives at Paramount are like, we'll have these shows going to keep the franchise going. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. It's just stuff they're making.
Well, here's the thing. Like, if that's what they want to do, I get it, and great, and more power to all the people that love it, because there are people that are coming new to the franchise.
Sure, and I don't begrudge those people.
New audiences, Star Trek is 2008 and beyond, right? And there are people who are enjoying that, and that's great. But what's frustrating is you can do both. You can bring new people and also honor the franchise and the legacy of the franchise. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think that's the kind of the frustration is they're not Star Trek. They're making Star Trek into something other than what it was, right? And that's a conscious.
Or they're trying to, and it's not working.
Well, yeah, it's certainly not the kind of Star Trek. I think that it's not that optimistic vision. You know, I mean, they say it's the optimistic vision, but then they give you these gruesome, dark moments and swearing and you know, and it's just like, it's just not what I want from Star Trek. The world that is depicted in Discovery and Picard is not a world I would ever want to live in the future, right? We, as kids growing up, we all wanted to live in that Federation, that vision of the Federation that was inclusive and adventurous and intellectual and thoughtful and you know, and there was diversity and you know, it's like, this isn't a world I want to live in.
Okay, here's a really interesting. I came up with this the other day, and I was telling a friend of mine this, and they didn't quite get what I was trying to say. And I said that I thought when they were going to make Star Trek Picard that I was going to get the Field of Dreams of Star Trek, and Picard would be like the Burt Lancaster character. You know, and the idea of baseball, Ray, you know, America has been written on the chalkboard, erased and written again. Like everything about Field of Dreams was about nostalgia, and yet it was about this, you know, put in, instead of baseball, make it Star Trek.
Right.
I thought that's what I was going to get. And in that film, both the James Earl Jones character and the Burt Lancaster character have such nobility and such honor. And there's still humor there, and you've got a young character that we've got the Kevin Costner young whippersnapper who brings us into the J.D. Salinger / character in the movie world, because J.D. Salinger wouldn't allow it to happen. But I thought, and to me, I love Field of Dreams. And a lot of people are like, wait, what? How are you equating it? Look, I'm not saying Field of Dreams and Star Trek have anything to do with one another, but the tone of what Field of Dreams tries to do. Think about, in Field of Dreams, replace baseball with Star Trek. You know, and think about it in those kind of terms. I thought that's what we were going to get. Something that celebrated life and friendship and magic, and we didn't get that.
Right. And something that reminded us of what an optimistic future can look like, right? Because we certainly don't live in an optimistic future right now necessarily. Like the news is all bad every time you turn on the TV, but it's like that was what Star Trek was all about.
It diametrically opposed the news.
Right. It's like we're going to get through this. We're going to figure it out, and here's a world a couple hundred years from now where we've gotten through all these troubled times, and we've come out the other side better and smarter and more wise about who we are as human beings, right? What our place in the universe is, and that's what I want. I mean, I want that optimistic vision, and that's just not what Star Trek right now is about. It's about fun and zapping around the galaxy, and there's your Tribble, and there's a bumpy-headed Klingon, and
no science at all. You're what I find so strange is I look at modern Star Trek, not to bash it all, but when you look at the turbo shaft, I'm like,
the roller coaster.
There's no, what's so weird to me when I see something like that, I'm like, the people that are making this show have no understanding of what is a spaceship, what would a spaceship look like? And clearly it's not there. Dieter's like going, when are these guys?
Yeah, I know. I just thinking we just gone off for another 30.
So, but I have a question for Dieter, and we make fun of the fact that you're the trash panda, the trash Kaiser. But here's the thing.
Terrific.
I would ask you this, Dieter. Here's what I worry about our cinematic future. Is that now that everything is subject to analytics and AI, and they can do deep dives and find out how many people are watching these movies, I worry that our cinematic legacy, no matter what it is, from the last 120 years or plus of cinema history, that eventually there will be AIs that tell us, well, there's not enough people watching these movies, so let's just remove them from our platform. And so much of our cinematic legacy is less than A-list. Whole genres can be erased by analytics that are telling us that, there's 100,000 people, 100 million people watching The Shawshank Redemption, but there's only 2,000 people that watched Albert Pune's Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme last year. So anything that's not getting a certain amount of views, we're just going to get rid of it because it's worthless. So and most movies are not A-list, so you're gonna lose the entire drive-in legacy of human endeavor in terms of cinema for the last 100 years. Now, I would ask you, do you worry about that? Do you think that half your collection would be swept away in an analytics purge because the numbers aren't there?
As long as my players are working, actually not. If I still have those titles to watch it. But considering your worries about that could be. It's all about the analytics.
Just think about how hard it is.
And what are they watching? Give them new content every week. Give them new content.
Yeah. But I just wonder,
think about how hard it is if there's a movie that you name a catalog movie that you want to see, and you just pretend you don't have the disc for it.
Night of the Comet.
You got to jump through hoops to figure out where that title is. Is it streaming anywhere? Right? Where is it streaming? Is it on Netflix? Is it Amazon? Is it on Disney? Is it on Hulu? Is it on right? And is it free to stream on those services, or do you have to pay to rent it? Is it available digitally? Is it available right? The beauty of physical media, especially with the rise of DVD, was that it coincided with the rise of Amazon, which meant that you name the movie, if it was available on disc, you could go on the internet, go on Amazon, probably find it, and click, and it was in your shopping cart, and 2 days later you had it in your mailbox.
Yep.
That's the problem, and that was the world's cinema, not just American cinema and Hollywood cinema, but movies from all over the world. That goes with streaming. It becomes much more fractured. It's a much more siloed and isolated mediascape.
Well, and also you can immediately see anybody at Netflix or any streaming service can see what movies are being watched.
Right.
And the problem is now, when I was a kid growing up, you could still see a lot of foreign movies in local theaters. I grew up in Seattle. We had, at the time, per capita, more movie theaters than any other city in the United States. And we had a huge, great movie-going population. And I got to see so many foreign films, the Seattle International Film Festival, so many things that I would never have been able to see. But nowadays, I mean, especially here in America, we people are always talking about, well, there's all this privilege and we have critical race theory and all this. I'm like, more importantly, why are Americans not as interested in what's going on in the rest of the world as we used to be? And I maybe I'm looking back with rose-colored glasses, but when I was growing up, I lived for crazy foreign films that were coming into town.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are like, I don't like subtitled movies. I don't like old movies. I'm like, where did that attitude come from?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is the fact that there's just, I mean, look at YouTube, right? I mean, here we are. We're on, anything you want to see is available on YouTube practically. There's just, you can go down that rabbit hole endlessly. And so I think it's, we grew up in a world where we didn't have access to these films. We didn't even know a lot of these films existed until like suddenly we did, right? Whereas, when you grow up in a world where media content is just coming at you all the time, everywhere for free, you don't value media. I think it's just naturally. That's not a criticism, really. You just naturally don't value media content as much as we did when we were kids because we grew up in a world without it. We didn't have access to it.
Right.
Well, times are changing, but like we've definitely seen again and again, these catalogs, these movie catalogs become valuable again. Like they fall by the wayside and people go, oh, I don't know. There's no value to this stuff. But eventually the value returns and we have to hope it's a cycle that will rejuvenate itself again. Maybe streaming will help, if we can clear up some of this stuff between some of the siloed aspect of it, that some stuff is exclusive here, some stuff is exclusive here. Maybe streaming there'll be a renaissance in this stuff again.
Okay,
is new again, right?
I have a few chats that I want to get to. Detritus asks a very important question, Bill and Dieter. Guys, having owned every release of The Lord of the Rings, is there any reason to buy the Middle-earth set besides the one bonus disc? By the way, this is your best show to date.
Well, it looks awesome. Let's say that.
It does look awesome. But can I just say, I spent years of my life traveling around the world, London, Australia, New Zealand, to work on the special features for Lord of the Rings, the extended versions, that are not part of this set.
No.
Not part of this set. They're releasing this. Right. I mean, there's 10 hours of special features on each Lord of the Rings disc, and we shot thousands of more hours no one has ever seen.
Yeah.
Thousands. And it's not part of that?
The frustrating thing is like if you want all of the films and both versions, the theatrical and extended versions, on 4K in one box, and also now this is the interesting thing. The Hobbit was already good in good quality on Blu-ray. But the Lord of the Rings films now have been remastered, and they're now on Blu-ray remastered from this new 4K scan, et cetera. Right? So, like, in terms of presentation quality, to get all of the films in both Blu-ray and 4K, like this box, is terrific. Except, again, I think other than the audio commentaries, which are going to be on the Blu-rays, I believe they're going to be on the Blu-rays, and this one little bonus disc that's got, like, 2 new features, that's it. And it's a beautiful box, I guess, right? But I mean, it's like all of those extras are gone, which means you've got to keep your original Blu-ray versions of all of those if you want to keep all, and frankly,
and a lot of people don't have those because they came out a long time ago.
Right, exactly right. So you've got to keep your theatrical cut Blu-rays, you've got to keep your extended edition Blu-rays, you got to keep your Blu-ray 3D Blu-rays if you want the Hobbit 3D stuff, and then you've got to buy this new box. It's so. I think the frustration is that they're calling this an ultimate collector's edition. If they're leaving out all the extras, there's no business calling it an ultimate collector's edition, right? If you wanted to call it the movie only extravaganza or whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, whatever, right? But it's like that's the thing. People have been promised for 2 decades now, basically, that eventually there will be an amazing box that's got everything, right? And all kinds of stuff that hasn't been released yet, and all kinds of cool stuff that we, Peter Jackson and Michael Pellerin and people involved with these movies have talked about that eventually that's what we want to do, and this still isn't it, and it's frustrating. At the very least, if they'd carried over all of the extras, right? Because the extras on those original Blu-ray sets, the extended editions especially, were on DVDs. The appendices discs were DVDs. The Costa Bodas disc, right? That was a DVD.
Costa Boats.
And then the bonus discs on the theatrical Blu-ray were also DVD. They could have taken all of those extras for each film and reauthored them onto a Blu-ray, even though they still would have been standard definition.
Yeah, but they still would look good. I mean, you upscale that stuff. I mean, I have to say,
4 DVD discs per film for extras. You've got 1 Blu-ray disc, right? So rather than a 31 disc set, this could have been a 37 disc set, and you'd get everything. But,
well, first of all, I mean, if I may say so, I mean, I was just part of the team. The team that made the Lord of the Rings extended edition special features was the single greatest DVD special features team ever assembled. We were given carte blanche. Everybody made it their lives. We spent years doing them.
Yeah,
and while I would say
the menu pages were filmed with actual props from the film.
Dude, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you what it was like to work. Also, we had the biggest budgets of any special features ever made. The idea that those special features, which are, and I'll say this, the greatest special features ever done for anything ever, overall. I would dare say Michael Pellerin did a great job on the Hobbit movies, too, which there's some amazing emotional stuff, amazing special features. The fact that those special features are for Lord of the Rings are not part of this box set is so, it's shameful. It is shameful.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, I will say this because I spent years of my life, and I was just I was doing other things. Like I was doing my Tron documentary that was nominated for a DVD exclusive award for Best Documentary of the Year, beaten by MASH, okay. But the fact that Warner Brothers has gotten rid of 30 hours of content that took 4 years to make, it's not on those discs is shameful. Shameful.
They're not in the box set, but what they're doing on the same day is they're re-releasing the Lord of the Rings theatrical edition Blu-rays and the Lord of the Rings extended edition Blu-rays, and those Blu-ray sets remastered, right, from the new 4K remaster. Those Blu-rays will have those extras, right? So it's not like they're not putting out those extras. Those extras will continue to exist on those sets, but why not put those bonus discs in the Super Ultimate set? Because then people only have to buy one version if they want everything.
Well, that's what it should be. And this is my problem with basically, if you use the Lord of the Rings release as an example, this is the problem with America. I mean, think about this one thing, this one release as a metaphor for what is wrong with the United States. And what is wrong with the United States is everything is based on money. And I would say our educational system, education is knowledge is valuable for its own sake. You shouldn't just teach kids things that are for the test or that can be quantified with money. Because you never know, if you give children a rich, well-rounded education, who knows what will inspire them to go on and do great things.
Yeah.
Who knows? But now
we ought to be thinking certainly as a company.
Well, everything is
thinking more longer term.
Yeah, we're not. And the fact is, like, we are depriving people because there might not be profit in it. We are a nation that will only do things on a grand scale if there's money involved. And by the way, these people have not watched Godfather 3 because all the secrets of life are in the Godfather movies. And Michael Corleone says, helping your fellow man is profitable. Now, it might not show up on a bottom line in the next fiscal quarter for your shareholder meeting, but who knows how it's going to benefit you in the long run. So Dieter Bastian's collection of movies might be the single greatest collection after the apocalypse. Someone's going to find his collection. It'll be like in The Postman. And Will Patton is going to not just be showing one movie. He's going to have all of Dieter Bastian's low-budget action extravaganzas, and he'll be able to project them to the war-weary masses.
So you have a low bar that only can be raised.
Aliens come down, and all they know of humanity is Dieter Bastian's Blu-ray collection.
And by the way, I mean
the historical documents.
Yes, he'll be like a Morton Joe in Fury Road, except he'll be like the Einstein, who will be able to see take your pick, whatever action star. I mean, come on, Dieter. Who in the post-apocalyptic Scott Adkins?
Totally.
Come on, man. Because of your collection, he will become the Messiah.
I don't think he
that
was
we are looking for
in a post-apocalyptic movie yet.
Well, he might be the star of a post-apocalyptic landscape for real. But no, I mean back what I was saying. I mean I think that this thought that we're not going all the way anymore. Where you look in other countries, like you get Japanese releases, and you see how much thought is put into some of those releases. These German media books, and the things like the French version of Hard Target. Well, we're gonna slip in the work print that only existed on VHS because there's no other copy of it. I mean, other countries are thinking about this. Other countries that believe art is worth it for its own sake. We don't have that mentality here.
Sometimes it's important just to do things for the love of doing things, right?
It's always important to do things for that because, when it comes to home video, it's a connoisseur's market. The people that are buying these things are buying them. I mean, maybe it's a vestige of the 20th century collecting. I know that young kids say they don't give a fuck. Although they're finding, whether it's buying a heavy gauge vinyl, that people are finding because people love to collect stuff. They love to be a part of a community. And so you've got kids and all that. There's people rediscovering all this stuff. And like there's a guy, Elliot, a YouTuber. I forget he's a very serious British chap. Hi, it's Elliot. I'm here to talk to you about, it's not films at home. I watch him too. But Elliot is this British kid who collects all the I say kid, he's bearded. But he's got a very serious YouTube channel about physical media. Yeah. And he recently did a whole thing about how he's going to revamp his collection. And he's like, I got to talk about my collection. And I watch all of his videos, and they're so earnest. And I want to have him on the show. Like, there's a couple of YouTubers that do physical media stuff. Bill, I don't know why you are not on YouTube all the time. Why isn't the digital bits on YouTube?
It's something we thought about for a long time, but it's an enormous amount of work to be. I mean, I see what you do. You're on.
Come on, dude.
The number of hours that you spend like doing your channel, it's a lot of work. And the problem is the amount of time it takes to keep the bits going and to check with contacts and to review these titles and to go through all of that stuff is and keep the site moving smoothly and functioning smoothly. And in a world where hacking is now like just out of control and it's a denial of service attacks and cybersecurity. It's just an enormous amount of work. And on top of that, I'm trying to write these novels, which is how I keep myself sane. Right?
It's true.
And it's like there's not enough hours in the day. I would love to. I mean, I would love in theory to do a YouTube channel or a show or something, but it's like, God, there's just not enough hour. I have not enough hours in my life to devote to all this stuff. That's it. It's a kind of a Sophie's choice, right? It's like you got to pick your battles and figure out a way to stay sane and keep yourself invested and thrilled and engaged and
It's true. Yeah, I know.
I admire what you're doing.
Hey, you know what? Hey,
how many times at 1 a.m. I go on YouTube and I see that you're online live with someone.
Hey, you know what I'm going to do?
Observations like 1 a.m. for like 2-3 hours, and I'm like, wow, God bless him, man. I guess like I wish I had that kind of energy.
Hey, you know what I'm going to do right now? So last night on Midnight Metal, I called Bryan Singer and had him on.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to call George Feltenstein right now.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to see if he'll come on the show, if he'll talk. He might.
But he's probably talking with his father.
He could be talking with his dad right now. I don't want to interrupt him, but maybe.
Yeah,
We'll see. Maybe. Here it is. He might be cowering in terror at this moment.
Hello?
George.
How is this possible? I'm watching you on TV right now.
Okay. So I've got...
This is really
Love you,
wild
man.
because I just paused you and you got Bill Hunt on here. I'm going to call you when I press pause as I'm talking to you.
As you know, we've waxed rhapsodic about you going back into the studio system.
Well, I didn't know that. I just turned it on literally within the last 90 seconds. There must be something bizarre going on in the atmosphere.
Well, so we've been singing your praises for the last 2.5 hours. I figured, you know what? I'm just going to call George. And
I think that's great.
Well, so we do too, and I thank you for picking up. Now, I would ask you.
Broadcast?
Oh no, you're live. You're live, buddy. You're live on.
Hello, everybody.
But now,
my dogs would say hi too, but they're sleeping.
Now, let me ask you a question. We're talking about the future of physical media, and Bill maintains that with various game systems like the PlayStation and how there's 4K players in those machines. Do you think I would ask you, how long do you think physical media has? What is the lifespan? Do we have a decade?
I would say I'm comfortable in saying we have at least to the end of the decade, meaning 2020. But I as someone who holds on to physical media, and just the way things are in general, I think it could be more like at least 10 years from now, like even past 2031. It just will look different. It's going to be more niche. I think it's already becoming closer to Laserdisc, which is not a bad thing. Don't forget that Tony Soprano had a great Laserdisc setup in season 1. This is not lost on me.
Do you think in the Many Saints of Newark, someone's going to have like 8mm film reels of their favorite movies in the 60s?
Sadly, I don't think anybody remember. Well, those of us who grew up going into the camera store and seeing those little 50-foot capsule films, have fine memory of that. But I don't think that format is going to come back.
No, I don't think so either. But it would be cool if it did.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, that's the thing that in a way I have to say breaks my heart, because when I was a kid, I said, wouldn't it be great to be able to own a movie? And basically you couldn't.
Right.
Studios weren't making it possible. And Leonard Maltin told me that story that Sam Spiegel was very offended when Columbia Pictures put out a 50-foot, not a 200-foot, 50-foot, 3-minute Lawrence of Arabia 8mm. He thought it was going to hurt box office. It's a true story.
Wow.
There are still a lot of things that are developing, and the great thing is having those, I'd say, was it 5-6 million PS5s out there now that have the drives?
Yep.
And the content that's coming out right now in 4K, both in terms of, new theatrical releases and new to format releases are somewhat still being affected by the pandemic, and we still don't know when the pandemic will be even behind us. I mean, we're still in the middle of it,
Yeah.
which is quite frightening in terms of being able to make new movies. And when is Tom Cruise ever going to get his film done that he's been working on for 2 years?
Well, they wrapped it yesterday, according to Deadline or whatever.
Okay, that's great. I didn't read that article, but my point is that everything there's so much change going on. This is the most radical period of change in the industry since really, I'd say, the coming of sound, maybe even more so, because that was still very linear in the process.
Right.
There are so many unknowns that you can put into the blender right now and not know exactly how it's going to come out. And yet we see so many wonderful new steps higher to more content being available on Blu-ray and in some cases 4K. So, I'm excited every week reading about, this is happening and that's happening. And, some of the things are incredibly bizarre and very, very niche. If people can afford, some of the smaller companies, if they can afford to actually be profitable, putting out some of the things they're putting out, all the more power to them. But I think it's much going to continue to shrink in the big scheme of things to something more niche. And it's going to be harder to sell millions and millions of discs of a particular title, the way it used to be. But it's not going anywhere overall. And I still have optimism. And we're looking to 2022 with great excitement for physical and digital, transactional, people owning or renting physical and digital media, and it's fantastic. There is room for everybody. There's room for everything.
Yep.
Well, can I ask you something? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but are we going to get a full-blown, awesome special edition of Dune?
I have no idea, to be truthful. I'm not part of those discussions, and I'm only back at Warner Brothers 3 weeks, and I'm still not down from Cloud 9. I'm so happy to be back.
By the way, we're on Cloud 9 that you're back, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And, I was preparing for it. It was going to be likely, but I was hopeful and waiting. And everybody there has been just wonderful about my return. And I kept planning 2022, even though I wasn't working there anymore, because I really believed that there was a good chance I'd be able to return. So I'm catching up on all the 2021 stuff that still has yet to come and yet to be announced. And there's lots of good stuff in the offing for the rest of the year and starting next year as well. So it's a very, very exciting time. But, on the 4K side, I can also say there are going to be, in addition to new theatricals or new productions, I should say, because some of them will be made for HBO Max and some of them will be made for theaters. And because I don't think the exclusive of, and I could be wrong because it's not my area, so I'm not speaking officially as a Warner Brothers person, I'm just speaking as a person. I don't think the commitment to the day and date is past 2021. That was my understanding. That's what I read.
Yeah, that's what they said, yeah.
I'm not part of that group. But there's going to be even more of the big catalog titles. The doors have opened in all the studios, and it's great that Universal and Paramount and Sony, they're really doing wonderful things, and Warner Brothers has plans for that as well, and going back, earlier than 1980, and that makes me very, very happy. And I will be involved in those things. They'll just be separate from Warner Archive, and
Sure.
my dream is that Warner Archive will even enter the 4K fray, but right now that is not
Right.
planned to happen. But I never believed when we started Warner Archive that we'd get in the Blu-ray business, no less get to be able to create discs of the quality that we're now able to do.
With the highest bit rates at Warner Brothers.
Yes, maxed out, max them out.
Well, now let me ask you this. We were talking earlier about, like, Paramount has had a problem replicating. You and I have talked about this. There was one specific title we were both waiting on.
There's one title that I ordered a long time ago that I expected to get this week, and it's nowhere. Or was it last week? I think it's supposed to come out last week. The Star Trek set.
Yeah.
I ordered that the day it came out, and I don't get it.
Bruh, I'm right there with you, sir. I didn't get it either. And when you go to Amazon, it's secondary sellers selling it for like $125.
$150.
Yeah, what's up with that? Come on, man. And the same thing happened with Indiana Jones. But now let me ask you this. The question I want to ask you is with the newly energized physical media market, and there's only one replication facility, in Mexico, how can the studios with this renewed interest possibly keep up with the replication of discs?
Well, I really don't know the answer to that. I haven't heard about any replication log jams at, there's a problem at Technicolor when one of the lines went down, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, right before the pandemic. And it screwed up the whole industry. But from what I understand, there are supply chain problems everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, Tech Guad isn't, and I said in Guadalajara, in Mexico, that's not the only plant. There's also plants overseas, and there are overseas companies that are shipping discs to the U.S. There are alternate solutions. And I think just as vinyl started to become more popular and companies were actually changing CD lines to vinyl lines, people can adapt quickly if demand grows. But I think that people underestimated the hunger for the physical product.
Yeah.
And I think you're 100% right that maybe these guys ought to look at, maybe we ought to, that plant in the middle of the country that we shut down a couple of years ago, maybe we ought to open it up. Nobody else is buying the property, So
I agree. Well, listen, I feel like I've invaded your Sunday because we were talking about
and I'm like I'm on live on your show, right?
You're live right now, yes, sir.
That's wild, and I didn't even sign a release form.
Well, I know, but we've not said anything.
Don't worry about it.
We've
Don't
not.
worry about it.
There's nothing controversial. You're part of the team now. I still want to do a weekly segment when you got stuff to talk. Sundays on the disc with George, whatever you want to call it. We'll have somebody write you a good theme song. It'll be great. But
you have to admit, it is kind of bizarre that I turn on my Roku, I go to YouTube, I go to see your show. I'm watching it. Literally less than 60 seconds later, the phone rings. And I see your name on my caller ID, and I was like, I thought it was going to be my dad, and I was like, oh, wow. He's going to be calling me when he's live on TV.
Because it's people like it when I do this. Like sometimes I call my mom, Last night I called Brian Singer and talked about movies, and calling you on Let's Get Physical Media is obviously because you to us you're the legend. You're.
Well, I'm honored, and I just want to tell you that since when I had the good fortune of being on your program. I had shared with you that I knew when my return date was, but I wasn't, going to talk about it or refer to it. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to jinx anything. But what I can say is now that I have the opportunity to acknowledge that, that I couldn't be more grateful to the people at the company and to the fans. Because when they found out that I was returning, the support has been unbelievable. I've been getting emails and phone calls from lots and lots of people across the industry and from consumers and fans that have just been so beautiful and touching and supportive. And I feel like, I've come out of being forced into zombiehood for a couple of months, and it's a great. Yeah, I feel I'm me again. It's a wonderful thing. Now, when I was on your show, I was still, I didn't feel like a zombie because we were talking about what I love,
Right.
And I love everything just as you do, and this is an exciting time, but I have to assume that the company we're talking about that's having trouble getting their discs out, they're probably having kittens. I'm sure they're not happy about it, and I don't know. I would assume that they did everything right, and something slipped.
Oh, I agree. I think that they didn't understand the demand. They underestimated exactly how many people wanted these things. And by the way, by all accounts, if you've read Bill Hunt's review of the Star Trek discs, they did a phenomenal job. And
yeah, as a matter of fact, I've been waiting for Bill's review, and I read it I think last night. And it made me very, very excited. Then, of course, I was reading on the forums and people saying, well, there were 6 movies, with the original series. And, somebody has to find something to complain about when there's something to celebrate.
right.
So we have to celebrate all the wins, because we're not going to get all the wins. But the more the industry gets together, and I feel there is a propulsion, there's a forward movement of people realizing there are opportunities here, and there are still consumers that want to have that great experience. And I find that very encouraging.
I do too. Well, listen, on that note, I can't thank you enough for first picking up the phone. and
Wouldn't I always love talking to you.
I know, but I just randomly call you as I'm live on YouTube across the globe. You never know. People are like, I'm not
Well,
gonna.
it's good enough for Howard Stern to call his mom and dad, when he's on the air, which I always found to be a highlight when I was listening to his show. I feel honored.
Well, then I'm just gonna keep calling you. I know we can't schedule a regular time, but I'm just gonna randomly call you on Sundays just to see if you'll pick up.
Well, chances are I'll be here. If I'm not chaptering a movie, which is one of the things I have to do in a few minutes.
I love it. I love it. Well, George,
I still do that stuff myself, so.
I want to thank you for being you, but I gotta say, I'm once again, because I've been banging on this horse for 3 years. I want Wild Planet on Blu-ray.
I was just thinking about you and that Wild Planet request.
Come on, man.
Night. Not kidding.
1965's best Franco-Italian sci-fi co-production of awesomeness. Come on.
And Speed Racer.
Look, man. Oh, yeah, Speed Racer. The Wachowskis have the Matrix Lana's got Matrix Resurrections coming out. Can we please get an uncompressed Speed Racer disc? Release it as part of Warner Archive, man. We only got a BD 25 on that.
Very possible. That's very doable.
That could be a perfect 4K title.
That's
Warner
I mean, we're talking 4K uncompressed audio. Come on, man. Get that in the pipeline. Matrix Resurrections. You've still got until December, what, 22nd? Come on, man. Make it happen.
Well, we're locked. I was told on Friday that we can't add anything more into the year.
Except Speed Racer. Come on, slide it in there. You can do it.
But,
next year.
Next year. Some things are worth waiting for, and we make good things happen. Look, it took me 18 years to clear the home video rights for Popeye cartoons to be released on home video.
Right.
So I don't give up easily. So I'll just put your two.
Oh, my third one's The Devils. You know my third one's The Devils. Just got to go revisit that with Warner Legal.
There's been a lot of stuff, a lot of online chatter about that, and that goes right up to the general counsel of the studio. It is not just a home entertainment thing.
I know. HBO Max presents Ken Russell's masterpiece, The Devils, uncut in 4K.
Its management has, at the highest levels, has been changing and is going to continue to change. So who knows what a new administration will see. I think in this environment, frankly, people are afraid of anything that's going to create a storm on or a bad article someplace. Nobody wants to get bad press.
Wow, it's amazing that people are scared of a movie that came out almost 50 years ago.
We're talking 50 years now, and I think that really changes the argument. But one of the things I did read was one of the people in the forums was asserting that I was against the movie and I had something. I've never had anything against the movie or been involved in its being repressed. So let me just say that publicly.
You don't strike me as a person who wants anything repressed, to be honest.
No, I think everything should be available to. I mean, my original vision as a very, very young man that the future would hold it, that you'd be able to go to a set of a keypad on the side of your wall, kind of like the Jetsons or something, and you'd be able to press buttons and see any movie or any cartoon or any television show that you want. And we're kind of, sort of almost there. But the responsibility is to the studios to make their content available. And we've done a pretty good job of that, I'd say, more than most. But there's still no delivery medium better than the disc. And
Amen. God bless you, sir, for saying that.
And we continue in our praise and our worship of physical media.
Well, George, on that note, I will bid you a farewell and a fine Sunday. Thank you for picking up the phone, sir. It is always a pleasure to speak with you.
I'm so glad you called. And hello, everybody, and thank you.
Absolutely, and we expect great things. So listen, Matrix Resurrections will come out on disc probably around May. I'm thinking Speed Racer coming out at the same time. What do you say? Come on, 4K. What's up, buddy?
We'll have to have some offline calls about that. But do call again. You now have my number.
Oh, I'm gonna call all the time.
I'll look forward to it.
All right, George. Thank you so much.
Care.
Appreciate your time.
Bye, George.
Dieter says
love you,
goodbye,
George.
George, and so does
Auf
Bill Hunt.
Wiedersehen.
Dieter says Auf Wiedersehen. Oh, you can probably hear it, but you'll see it. It's live. You'll find it.
I'll have to watch the whole thing. I'm looking forward to it.
You can speed it up now, George.
Angry that I got to it so late.
Yeah, we're now into hour 3, so it's all good.
Oh, Bill, I thought I was close to the longest, so Bill must really. This is going to be a great show. I'll look forward to watching it.
All right, sir.
Take care.
I'll see you later. Have a good Sunday.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Come on, man. George Feltenstein, ladies and
Well,
gentlemen.
there you go. There you go. How does it get better than that?
I don't know. It does get better when Terje Mork says from Norway, Middle-earth set, my opinion, I shall pass. Kind of funny. Sheriff Carl, up in my hometown of Seattle, Seattle, home of the CD, if you're a fan of Mix-a-Lot. Sheriff Carl says, great show and great fucking shirt, Dieter. I think our culture is like this. We know the
over
price.
30 years old.
Well, that really? It's vintage? Yeah. Real vintage.
Yeah.
So
It's
Sheriff,
from the
Concert worn.
Concert worn, yeah.
Yeah.
Sheriff Carl says, we know the price of everything but the value of nothing. And that is a larger cost than the money. Live long and rock, dudes. Yes, we will. Well, guys, this has been a long show.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps, Dieter, when do you have to be at work tomorrow?
Luckily, I have night shift, Rob. I have so I have the whole day to myself until tomorrow evening. But it's getting around 11 p.m.
Yeah, so I think we should end this show.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a thrill, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been a fun time.
It's been great. I want to thank Bill Hunt, our esteemed guest. Please go to Bill? Where can people find you on physical media? Where can they find you on social media?
Your show.
You can find me at thedigitalbits.com, and you can also find me on Twitter and Facebook at Bill Hunt Bits and at thedigitalbits.com. At thedigitalbits.com, I think it is.
And Dieter?
You can find me on the Burnettwork. And don't forget, jede Person, die du triffst, hat eine Geschichte zu erzählen, die du noch zu hören hast. Alles, was du tun musst, ist zuhören.
I love you say that. I want to thank my great blue wrenches, the moderators. Dean Mikatich, Justin Toner is here. I don't know how many other people are here, but I don't know if who was here. But I want to thank you all for being the moderators that you are, and for people that send in super chats and tips. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's very much appreciated. Hopefully you like our content. I always say subscribe and like. No, I don't ever say that, but I'll say it right now because, come on, man, after this epic show, why wouldn't you subscribe and like this program? You should, and you should continue to buy physical media. And remember, La Lisa of Blackpink, here she is, has her new album out, and watch her video. Thank you, Willow Yang. And we